Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy from TCG, and we're back with episode 7 of This Pod to Me. It has been a few months since we've done the podcast, but obviously I've been, busy just, winning every single event possible. By every event, I mean absolutely none of those events. But today we have a very special guest, friend of the channel, someone that has dodged me about 64,000 times, but, we'll just, let that slide. We won't dig on too much, but we have Nathaniel Snyder, Judge Dredge. Never even played Dredge, but for some reason says he can judge Dredge. Nathaniel, how are you doing today, man?
I'm very good. How are you?
And I'm just glad you're here, man. I'm just glad you finally didn't get ninth. You did get the illustrious second place. Uh,
Yeah,
so
second, second's a lot better than ninth, but it stings all the same,
yeah, obviously you can get 31st. Takes a special time to get 31st. But I was playing on hard mode, so I think pretty much 31st and second is about the same thing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
yeah, I mean, I just didn't get a PTI. That's it. It's like the only difference. But our boy Nathaniel was on his signature Lexi. He has been probably one of the more premier Lexis in all of Ohio for the last couple of months now. Obviously, has played a few other decks here and there, but when it comes to when it's time to put money in the bank, he has played Lexi Livewire. And we're actually going to start off a little bit of deck tech. So the way this will go for everyone that has not seen the interviews here, we will start with the deck tech. We will then go into how the event went, like a little bit of a recap, and then some general meta discussions. If you guys will look on the actual screen, we actually will have the deck live. For you guys to go over, the also list will be in the description. This also is post bans. If you guys are watching this, is just right after the Bullseye Bracer ban and the Odom Living Legend. So that is where the context of this list will also come. This will be the week 0 list. Obviously, there may be changes after the tournament, but at least for right now, this is what Nathaniel Snyder chose to bring to Battle Hardened Cincinnati. So start off, obviously, what brought you to Lexi Livewire? Why are we playing Lexi?
Okay, so I have uh, hundreds and hundreds of games on Lexi. It was the first year that I started. When I started, I wanted to play Chain. For anyone who's familiar with Magic, I've played a lot of Dredge, and that's what people know me for. And I thought Chain looked like Dredge, and then I played it and I hated it. And now I know that I hated it because I was so bad, and this game is much harder than Magic. Uh, and Chain is kind of like Dredge, but anyway, I started playing Lexi, and I played her for I don't know, like 6 or 8 months or something. And then I was still not very good, but I always have Lexi sleeved up in the bag, and I enjoy playing her a lot. And I played her during ProQuest season, uh, three, ProQuest season 3, I think. And I fell short of a PTI a couple times with it, but I was on Fuse lists before it got real popular. It was before Outsiders. Um, so I played a lot of Lexi, but when I got to the night before the tournament, so I actually haven't played Lexi for 3 or 4 months. I haven't really played many tournaments since Baltimore, uh, which I think was about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And I scrubbed out of that really hard. I scrubbed out of it, sold my deck, defoiled it. So now I'm just all non-foils for Lexi. I only foil the wizard stuff. Um, and I don't like playing stuff like Lexi or Kano, like current Lexi or Kano at Armories because the decks are so busted. But like I want new people to keep coming back, and I just try to focus on teaching people how to play the game. It's like really awkward to convince somebody to come play this game, teach them how to play, sit them down, and then kill them with wildfire on turn 3. And they just like they're not gonna come back. So I don't play decks like Lexi or like Wizards at Armories. I just mess around with decks that suck like Viserai or Fatigue Dorinthia or whatever. So I haven't played Lexi in a while. I wanted to do well at this tournament, but I was really eyeballing Viserai, and I've mostly been playing Icelander, and I thought Icelander was in a reasonable spot. So I went to put all the deck lists together. I printed out a deck list for Lexi, Viserai, and Icelander before the tournament. Showed up, drove like 2 hours, got there, and I was like, man, I need a Dyadic Carapace, some Runic Reckonings to play Viserai, or I need some foil Warmongers to play Icelander. But it's day one, like the set just came out, so all of the cards are like outrageously expensive, and they wanted like 3 or 4 times what I was willing to pay for the cards for them on site. So I was like, I'm just gonna play the deck that I have sleeved with my bag. So that's why I played Lexi. It's not. I thought she's the best deck in the format by a lot, but I really don't like playing the best deck. I don't like playing mirror matches that much unless they're wizard mirror matches. But I got
True.
there and the cards were too expensive to play the optimal deck list for the other heroes that I thought I would enjoy. So I just played the good deck in my bag instead.
And the good deck, finally, the Bubble King himself, finally, it punched you through. So what we'll do is we'll start off with the deck list, obviously. Now, before we go into color card by card, do you think this is the best list that you could have brought? Do you think you could have improved this list at all?
Uh, yeah, I think so. This is not super innovative or anything. It's like really close to Brody Spurlock's top 8 list from the Pro Tour, and I tried to play a bunch of Ice Lexi. I tried to brain fuse some lists together, and every time I tried to put an ice list together, because I think the ice cards are really strong right now, but every time I try to put a list together, it just looks so much worse. Um, I goldfished a couple games with a couple different files, and it just they all felt awful. I didn't even take it in any real games. Like the cost curves are so awkward, and this deck is so efficient. Like you don't need to interact with your opponent as much if you just get them dead as fast as possible. And this deck is very good at doing that. So this isn't super innovative or anything, but if I could go back and change one card, I'd very easily win the tournament. Like on the way up, I was talking about playing a Trench of Sunken Treasure in the sideboard to play around Warmongers, and a couple other cards. It's like okay, the into the Azuri matchup as well. There's a big Dragon Drumai that they like Tumultai you. You can still play the game with a Trench. It's like does a reasonable impersonation of New Horizons. The card's not bad either. Like losing Tunic, you get about the same amount of value out of him throughout the game. Trench isn't as reliable, but it lets you play Quake Radiator by double arsenaling arrows without having to pop snaps or having like an Art of War for go again or something. But if I could, I was talking about playing Trench on the way up because of Warmongers, but it's week one. I didn't think people would really have it, and I didn't do any testing, so we just like, and I wasn't planning on playing the deck anyway, so I just like printed out the deck list, and then it was what I ended up submitting. But if I could go back and play Trench, I don't think I lose that finals game, and I don't think it's close. So going forward, definitely you have to play Trench as Lexi, and I don't think that Icelander can beat you if you have that card. Even if they line up everything correctly, it's like very hard for them to beat. But
I
yeah,
think
deck was almost perfect.
I think another card, and it'll be the first card that we talk about specifically, that also might have helped you during the Icelander matchup was so you have Hornet Sting, and obviously with the ban of Bullseye Bracers, there's about 2 arm slots, kind of 3, but realistically 2, that people have put in, and there's been Hornet Sting and Shock Charmers. Obviously, Hornet Sting, for people who don't know, long story short, whenever it defends, you look at the top card of your deck. If it's narrow, you do 1 damage to the attacking hero or an ally if it happens to be an ally, or you put it on the bottom deck. So it does 2 things. Obviously, it blocks, can deal some damage. It also actually helps get some really bad hands. Like if you're going to be drawing another heavy arrow hand, it actually allows you to maybe draw some non-attacks if you want to make some non-attacks in there. So it does a lot. But other people have chosen to take Shock Charmers with a little more blue heavy list, or like the tall Death Thrower list that obviously should have won the tournament that I played. Obviously, I just let my opponents win. But obviously, Shock Charmers having the Spell Void 2 and the ability to amplify extra damage if you have extra resources also could have helped you there. Just mostly the Spell Void 2 there. So why Hornet Sting over Shock Charmers?
So I think that there's 3 choices for your arm slot.
Don't you say bracers? Don't you say it?
No, no, that's like the 3.5 choice. That card's awful, not playable. I think the choices are Hornet Sting, which is what I wanted to end up playing. I do think it's the best by a lot. And then Poison or Toxic Tips. You could like pay 1, sack it, and then your next attack gives one of the uh, disease tokens on hit. And that card's like fine, but I think Hornet Sting is just much better. You get 2 points of value most times you block with it. And it's really hard to find a spot to use Toxic Tips in a meaningful way. And Hornet Sting's pretty good in some of your bad matchups and still get like extra points of value instead of just the one block. I don't think Shock Charmers is playable unless you're really scared of Kano, or you're just playing a different Lexi deck. There are some Lexi decks that can use Shock Charmers a lot better, but this one can't use it that well on 16 blues, and you're not proccing any additional on hits with the trigger, so I really think that Hornet Sting is the only arms piece to play, but I also think that Lexi is the best deck by enough that you could play nothing in your glove slot. You just wear no gloves. I think she's still the best deck. Like Hornet Sting could just be Iron Rock gloves, and it blocks for one, so you can soak up snatches or whatever for one card. It blocks breakpoints. Like that's all you needed to do. Sometimes it shoots them for one, and like that's good. But I think you could wear nothing, and it would be good. This to be clear, this card is not very good, but it's just like the best that we got, and it blocking for one does make a big deal.
Sure, the Iron Rot do be the best possible equipment. Alright, so kind of going into your main deck. Obviously, there's not a lot that sticks out from the average Lexi list, kind of like you talked about earlier. There's no, like, spice, there's no pizzazz, there's not like, oh, you're playing this card. But a few cards I just want to touch on and get your thoughts on here is obviously the Codex. Obviously, we've heard how good of a card Codex is, but I remember there was a period in time. I believe this was the time between Chicago Brawl and Pro Tour Baltimore that some Lexis were experimenting with some additional codexes, like obviously Blood Rot and Inertia, and we've seen them quickly taken away. So, do you have any insight on why these cards were being added, and maybe why they got taken away?
Yeah, so each of the codexes are worth more than a single card worth of value if you can line them up. If you like, Codex of Frailty is completely broken, and I don't know why the card's still legal, and I don't think anybody has an opinion that's different than that. But you have to line it up in order to make the card good. You can't just like play the card in any sequence and have it be good. You have to sequence super correctly, and sometimes that means holding an arsenal over multiple turns, or you have to find the right window to make these cards very good. And Codex of Frailty is easily the best one, and the other two aren't bad. But when you start putting 6 or 8 or 9 codexes in your deck, they're yellow 2 blocks. So it really, like, as pitch cards, they kind of limit what you can do in a turn. The general play pattern of the deck is you pitch a blue, you shoot a 0 cost, and then you shoot a 1 cost. You go again on the first one, and then you give +1 on the second one. Most turns, you're shooting just 2 arrows and setting up 6 card hands and blocking a little bit. When you put more 2 blocks in your deck, you become worse at that game plan, and also they're yellow, so they only facilitate either firing a single 1 cost arrow or 2 0 cost arrows. And I think most of my plans had me a little higher on 1 cost arrows than most other people are playing, so I wouldn't like that. But also, if you want to play that many codexes, you have to play Trench of Sunken Treasure in every matchup, which isn't bad, because that card lets you do some pretty good things in your play patterns, like double arsenaling arrows that don't naturally have go again. You get to trench one away, which is totally fine and like reasonably easy to do if you're playing these codexes on every turn cycle and making a ponder token, so you're always up an extra card. So you can extend a little further on each turn, and then use the ponder to put the second card in your arsenal. It doesn't matter what it is, you're going to use one of those cards to make a resource with trench. And so I think that's a style of deck that you can look into. It's just it's doing some cool things, but it's not as consistent, and I don't think it gets people dead fast enough. But I do like that style of deck. But I think Codex of Blood Rot is pretty bad. Codex of Inertia is pretty good in some spots, but you really have to build around them if you want to play more than just the Codex of Frailties.
I agree. Just the total overall point value that the Frailty specifically gets, the Codex of Frailty, is just astronomically higher than almost any other card you can put in the slot, and that includes the other codexes, so that does make complete sense. So, moving on to the next thing. So, obviously, from the Pro Tour, we did see some revival of Ice Lexi. Not, full, like, Chilling Ice fame, Blizzard Bowl, just every single turn disruption. But we've seen a few ice cards squeeze back in there. Obviously, we've seen the Frost slot come back in because you're adding ice cards. We see 8 Winter's Bite in your list. We see the 2 Arctic Incarcerations. So, what was the reason that you were able to add the ice cards back in, and what are they providing in this new meta?
So, uh, Fuse's Lexi is just an aggro deck, right? You're just trying to get your opponent dead as efficiently as possible. You're just playing the numbers game, and you're just better at it than the other decks. So, the ice cards on the sideboard are cost effective where there's zero cost. So if you have them in your hand, you can play them and trade them 1-for-1, which makes your opponent's blocking much worse. Like you can sequence in the middle of a turn to like send an attack at them. They block or don't block to be able to play around blocking your next thing effectively. If you shoot a 0, they like anticipate a 1 cost arrow, and you bite them in the middle of it, and then all of a sudden they have one less card to block with, and they have to either give you their whole hand to not take a turn, or they have to eat damage in an on hit to present anything back. Um, and that's like I guess the floor is that or pitching them. So like Yellow Winter's Bite's really good. That's why I played 3 of those instead of the reds because it doubles the resource card. And the difference between yellow and red in most matchups is non-existent pretty much. But when you get to put one face down in your arsenal at the end of your turn next to a face-up arrow, the turn after that is usually a 3-arrow turn. That gives them a frostbite and takes an entire card out of their hand. So you leak like 6 to 8 damage usually, or you get a whole bunch of equipment. And that's just off of any color Winter's Bite. When you play 8 of them, you get to do that like every turn. In between those 8 ice cards and the 2 Arctic incarcerations, you really get them disrupt. You provide a lot of disruption to the aggro decks for almost no cost, almost every turn, while you're racing them and presenting better numbers than they are. It's like if it was just a pure race against the aggro decks, like a Katsu or Phi or Briar or anything, barring like crazy Channel Mount Heroic turns or something, your average turns I think are going to present more damage than theirs and probably block a little more because there's so many arrows. Maybe block about the same because they all have better equipment. But when you add that little disruption, it just tips the matchups so heavily in your favor that it's really not reasonable for them to be able to beat just a couple of Winter's Bites and arrows in a game. The cards are really, really powerful. I would not play less than 8 Winter's Bites and 2 Arctics. I think those are like mandatory if you want to play Fuseless.
Yeah, I think Winter's Bite slowly became one of my favorite cards just in the game over the weekend. Obviously, for those who've seen my vlog, I played Tall Death Dealer Lexi, and I, for some ungodly reason, played 2 Blue Winter's Bites, even though it's been one of my favorite cards. And just watching a lot of the lists that's came out recently, I just feel it's a huge mistake because, as obviously Nate talked about earlier, the pure value, you could only do this in your turn and it's still good. Activate Lexi, flip over Winter's Bite, give you a Frostbite. Play Winter's Bite, give me a card. So now your opponent's on, let's say, just a 3-card hand with a Frostbite. That value alone of what you did is amazing, especially if they were planning on playing all those cards. Like if they're like 3 0 for 4s, just for example. Well, now their turn just sucks because now they're playing a 1 for 4, and then now they're playing a 0 for 4. So their turn went from 12 to 8. So now you just look at just the number that just flipping a card and playing 1 card did, and it just gets worse the more that you add on, because then you can add on, well, what if I Winter's Bite and an arrow? Well, what if I Winter's Bite Arctic? Like, there's just so much extra that these Winter Bites do that it's just not obvious. I think the power of Winter's Bite specifically is just, it's the most, like, people overlook that. People overlook this kind of card, and seeing you run 8 just brings a smile on my face and makes me really regret playing 2, because it was just strictly incorrect. It was just strictly incorrect. So, going on...
When you like flip Winter's Bite up, like Blue Winter's Bite up, and then throw it at them, they have to give you a card, or like even just the blue, unless they have Tunic counter. They have to give you a whole card, and they have a Frostbite, so their turns tax a little bit. A lot of people will give you a yellow or a blue card and float a resource or 2 extra to play around additional bites, or they don't know if you're on Chilling Ice Veins, like Andrew Rothamel's Pro Tour top 8 list or top 4 list. And I think if you wanted to play chilling ice veins over the hamstring shots that I'm playing, then it's fine. I just I like being able to throw the arrow and have it do the thing every time, even if it doesn't strip a whole card. It's hamstring shots worth a frostbite. And in the sequences where because you bring all these cards into the same matchups for the most part, and the matchups where you like flip Winner's Bite, give them a frostbite, take a card out of their hand, and then a lot of times people will float the extra resources, try to play around additional Winter's Bites or Chillings or something, and then you throw a hamstring shot at them. And now what are they supposed to do? They have a frostbite. They pitch their blue card or their yellow card, and if this like kind of dopey looking hamstring shot hits them, then they don't get to play the game. So they have to give you cards and you just time walk them over and over again. And you still probably leak damage because if they block the hamstring shot out off their 3-card hand when they gave you a card already, then they have 1 card. So that means your 0-cost arrow connected. They're just really not having a good time. Winner's Bite, especially the yellows and the reds, don't look that good because they aren't blue cards and they effectively all do the same thing. Just when you overload on that effect, like playing 8 or 9 of them, uh, the aggro matchups are just so easy. They really struggle to race you without the disruption, but when you add that little bit of disruption into your in your mana base and your yellows and blues, then it's so hard for them to present more than a 2-card hand unless they want to take like 6 damage every single turn.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Nathaniel Snyder said Winner's Bite equals Time Walk. Let's go. That is going to be the title of the video. Let's go. But moving on to the next portion. Obviously, we know there would be some amount of Drum Eyes. If I recall correctly, Drum Eye was the second most represented deck. And I see you brought, appears to be 4 Poppers here. So why only 4? And specifically these ones. Because I remember there was a period of time where LEXIs were playing CNC. Obviously, it was a popper, and it was for the mirror. And I mean, CNC is just a good card. I guess we could just say that it's just a good card. But obviously, some people are starting to mix in down and dirty, not only for Dromai, but obviously the mirror for decks like LEXI. You can put it down and dirty in your arsenal and get either additional block value or have like a decent attack to have. It's not great, but it's decent. And obviously, you have things like Battering Bolt. Not only are proper, it actually hits a lot of things. Like, we didn't think there would be a lot of Prism there, but hypothetically, if this hits a Prism and they have multiple Figments in hand, it's literally Thanos. Like, this card can be Thanos for a lot of different decks. And I do respect Battering Bolt. I remember there was a period in time where we were playing it only because it was a popper and didn't have that much value, but I think it actually has some actual one-hit value now. So, what do you think about these 4 poppers in your deck?
Okay, so just to set the record straight, these 4 cards are all garbage. They suck so bad, and I would not put them in my deck if Dromai wasn't like a reasonable choice to play at these tournaments. These cards are not very good. But the only I think 4 poppers is the correct number. I don't like playing 5; it's too many. I don't like playing 3; it's too few. Just like 4 just seems like the sweet spot with the way that I want to play the Dromai matchup. I think people question the popper slots because they don't understand how to play against Dromai or what the role of the poppers is in the matchup. Specifically for the Fuseless Lexi deck. The reason that you play 3 Battering Bolt before you play anything else in the popper slot, regardless of how many you want to play, if you want to play 5 or 6 or whatever, you play 3 Battering Bolt before you play anything, because your deck is filled with a bunch of arrows, and then like some cards that are busted, like Rain Razors and 3 of a Kind and Codex of Frailty. Those are your power cards. So you leverage those cards to make your numbers bigger than everyone else's, and you have better average turns because you have so many of these cards. And when you're playing the matches where you board in these poppers, like specifically Dromai, or if you wanted to board Battering Bolt in against Dorinthia or Prism or whatever, the reason that you play Battering Bolt first is because you can play it on a 3 of a Kind turn. Whereas Down and Dirties or Command and Conquers or Death Touch or whatever you want to play in the slots, if you draw them off of a 3 of a Kind, like your 3 of a Kind turn's really bad. So you only play Battering Bolt because it's a 6 power arrow. You almost never throw it, but you're able to if you draw it on a 3 of a Kind turn. or like an awkward Rain Razor's turn or something. It's just an arrow, and it's the only 6 power arrow. If there was one that had better text, you would play it, but like the card doesn't. I can't remember a time where I've hit somebody with it and it did anything more than come in for 7. And then the one down and dirty, I don't really like playing Command and Conquers. I don't think it's that good in the Lexi mirror. It baits you into raising your cost curve, which is pretty bad when I think everyone should be playing like Winter's Bites and Arctics and stuff. If they're on any ice at all, Command and Conquer is not a playable card. You just aren't able to block with 2 cards on their turn and play it without eating like 8 damage. It's really awkward. I just don't like sideboarding it in. You take a lot of damage to play it, and then when you're able to throw it, oftentimes it doesn't matter because they have all the tempo. They can eat it, get rid of the 1 or 2 cards in their arsenal, which is like what you wanted to happen in the first place, but they just don't care very much. Like when my Lexi opponent plays Command and Conquer, they just have to give up so much to be able to play it, and then often I just don't care. Down and dirty, at least in the Dromai matchup, like you can play a Codex when you're behind and put it in your arsenal, and then like flip it and then shoot whatever other attack you had or whatever. It's like that's the only reason that it's down and dirty. I was playing a Death Touch for a while, and it's really hard. That card's much more awkward. Like down and dirty, at least you can like block with it and then block it again later if you're flooded on codexes or something, or you're really behind. But I think 4 poppers is the number that I like. I don't think any of the options are particularly good. You just play Battering Bolt because they're arrows, and then down and dirty is just the 4th one that I chose for the Dromai matchup. And for anyone who's playing this deck or Fuseless, if you play into Dromai, when you bring your poppers in, the role that they're used for is like just like 3 of a Kind when Birdie Spurlock compared it to Carrion Husk. Like these are just Carrion Husks. You use them to block a bunch of damage and then take your hand and throw it at them. Like take whatever cards you have left and just try to get them dead. You use these things to pivot. Like they save 3 cards to put some dragons into play and attack you. You just pop whatever you can, and then your next turn you clear everything else and shoot them for whatever you can. Then arsenal the endless arrows or whatever you're holding. You don't need to use them to blow up specific dragons. You just need to use them to gain tempo. If you can blow up a dragon while they have 2 cards in their hand, a lot of the times they'll have to pitch a card to Furnace to make an Ash. And if they're good at Dromai, the Ash isn't a hard resource to manage in the Lexi matchup, I don't think. So they should, most of the time they'll have a whole bunch of Ash anyway. So you're effectively giving them intellect penalties by popping whatever the first dragon that they attack with, unless they have a mirror guy. That's kind of awkward. You just use them to pivot, like block, kill a thing, and then go to your turn and play the game. I wouldn't put too much weight on what they are because it doesn't really matter. You just play Battering Bolt because it's an arrow.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So next thing. So obviously, looking at older builds, we did see some amount of lightning cards. Obviously, Lightning Surge, Lightning Press. Some played Electrify, really bad card. We've seen a amount of that. It obviously was helping with Go Again, so you could give your pluses to your arrows. Things like Lightning Surge just reserved for 4s with a Go Again that also happen to just give something else Go Again. That's all pretty cool. But we've seen a large reduction recently of the Lightning cards once the Fuseless list came out. What do you think your reasoning for that is? Like, what happened to the Lightning cards?
The Lightning cards are really good in the super grindy matchups. They make your turns do more damage, but they're really awkward to fit into your deck, and they contend for some of the same spots that the ice cards do, which, like I said, I think Arctic Incarceration and Winter's Bite are just so good in this deck, and what I expected to play against, what I think people will still play against. Like I'm still just going to play 8 Winter's Bites. So those cards are so good, and they contend with the same slots as Lightning Surge and Lightning Press Reds, which I think are the only ones that you would ever play. I don't think you can play the Lightning cards. I just don't think they're worth it. And I think those grinding matchups are either in your favor or super winnable if you have the reps, that you don't really need those tools to win. I would rather use those cards in the slots for the matchups that are races to make those super favorable, because I think there's way more of those decks in the format. I love the card Lightning Press. You can do some cool stuff, especially against like illusionists. You like block with any arrow, and then you press it in reactions, because it's in the arena. You can press it as it's blocking, and then Phantasm triggers, you blow up their attack, which is like pretty cool. Turn your no block into their turn for 2 cards. But I liked it when you needed to force through drill shot against Oldham. Like you catch them with a cheeky lightning press and then you kill the rampart, so their Crown of Seeds is awful for the rest of the game, and the matchup was really easy if you could line that up. But obviously Oldham's not around anymore, so that was like the main reason I wanted to play lightning press, and even then I think it was questionable. Lightning Surge is a good card, but I think if you play more than one, you have too many turns that are super awkward, or too many turns where you just have to block with it for 2, and 2 blocks are pretty bad. The first Lightning Surge is very good. If you can put it into your arsenal and set up for a bigger turn, that's super good. Like you flip it with LEXI, shoot the arrow in your arsenal, then throw Lightning Surge, and you've thrown like 8 to 10 points or whatever off of just 2-0, or you normally throw like 8 points for 0 resources, and then you have 4 cards. Like it's like a 20 damage turn. It's very good. But also Lightning Surge in the late game is nuts, because you can like float an endless arrows or some 0 cost or even a 1 cost if you have Tunic up, or you can get a resource floating, and you can, like, if you have I don't know, like a red infecting shot or something in your arsenal, you can, and no card in arsenal other than that, you can pitch a blue, throw a 1 cost, throw a 0 cost with go again, play Codex as your 4th card hand, so you have no cards in hand, put the Lightning Surge face down, flip the Lightning Surge face up to LEXI, throw the 1 cost in your arrow off of Tunic, and then throw the Lightning Surge. And that's a 4 attack turn for 4 resources, and you have a Ponder token, so like you still get an arsenal. That's a lot of damage. And Lightning Surge is very good at enabling those plays. It's like a Bolton shot or a Falcon Wing, but it's better than those cards on turns where you didn't Rain Razors. If you Artivore it, it's about the same, depending on how you want to sequence it. But on turns without Rain Razors, it's a better target to extend into those four attack turns without Rain Razors. The first one's very good, but if you ever draw a second one or you draw 2 at the same time, they're extremely bad. So I would only play 1. I'm gonna keep playing 1. It's pretty good.
Makes sense. All right, so going on to the next part of this. Now, obviously, I want to let people know ahead of time. It has been a few days now since the Battle Hardened Cincinnati. I don't know how much Nathaniel remembers of the whole entire event, but Nathaniel, we're gonna have you go kind of round by round or general. You don't have to give me like the full matchup transcript of what happened on turn 4, 2 minutes into that turn. Just as much as you can remember of each round. Kind of just give us your version of what do you think happened in the match, why it went a certain way. Just kind of just a general recap. So, obviously, sit us down in your seat, round 1. Tell us about the event.
Okay, so I couldn't get the cards to play the bad decks, so I had to play the good deck that I brought. So I registered LEXI, and right before I'm like sitting at the table with you and some other friends, and we're talking, and then we go to our round 1 pairings, and then my opponent shows up like almost when they're about to start the clock. He shows up pretty late, and it turns out my round 1 opponent is Anthony Harper, and he's not like local to me, but he's local enough in Ohio that we have a bunch of mutual friends that we've talked a whole bunch of times. I like lent him some. I got him some legendary cards, like a Mass Momentum at a 1K we were at one time. Before we officially met, he like left his at home, so we knew who each other were, and we're sitting down, we're having a good time talking. He's on Katsu, and Katsu's a really good matchup with LEXI, but I'm like notorious for losing it every time I play against it on Talishar. I think I just don't know how to play the matchup. I block poorly or something. I don't know. I just die whenever I play LEXI into Katsu. It's like I know it's supposed to be very good, and I just die every time I play it. So we sit down and play, and Let me pull up my deck list. So the main deck is 46 cards. So you're bringing in 14 cards in every matchup, for the most part. And this sideboard plan for like Katsu and most of the games that I'll explain today is the you're bringing the Winter's Bites, the Arctics, the Hamstring Shots, and the Remorseless. 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, and I think I brought in one Sleep Dart for the 14th card there. Remorseless and Hamstring Shot are like really good in the aggro decks. A lot of them are skipping on blues right now, and Sleep Dart's good into all the aggro decks. It's just better into some of them. So I've only brought one into Katsu. I think I didn't even see it that game, but we I think he hit me for like 11 on the first turn. I wasn't able to really block that well. Um, I think I went first. So I didn't block very much. He hit me for 11, and then I don't think he attacked me for more than like a single Kadachi for the rest of the game. Like I hit him with a Winter's Bite or an Arctic or some on hits that he had to block every single turn, and he very quickly died. I think he conceded on like turn 4 or something. We didn't play for very long, but we had a good time. He was a nice guy, but Kazu's super easy matchup. I just I don't know. Maybe I figured out how to block in round 1.
So what you're saying is you became the GOAT after facing my boy Anthony. He's like about 20 minutes from me. I played a lot of games with him. He's a good guy. He just obviously just get to play a whole bunch, but I am glad that he got to play against someone like you because he doesn't get to play a lot against the good players in his areas because most of they just play blitz. He doesn't really get a lot of CC reps, so getting to face on high level was obviously going to be really good for him. But since you took out one of the homies, I'll have to take you out, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I will have to, have the same record as you at one point. So I'll have to figure that part out first. But round 2.
Okay, so round 2, I sat down against Brian Kelly, who I've never met before, but turns out he's like, I think he's in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah.
Super nice guy. He sat down with the most cursed water bottle that had a picture of Barney on it, and it said commit tax fraud. So I knew we were gonna get along right when I saw that. So we were chatting, having a good time, and he was on LEXI actually. We played the LEXI mirror. He was mostly fuseless. Um, and like that game also was not very close. I think he hasn't played the Lexi matchup as much. There were a couple turns where I like I had some pretty well timed ice cards, and I fought through. He saw 2 3 of a kinds before I saw any power cards, and I think I blocked with a Codex on turn 0. It's kind of awkward, but he tanked. There were a couple turns where he tanked really hard, and then he made some decisions that I thought weren't like he was getting beat up on some of those turns when he was tanking. But after I saw all of his hand, he just drew super awkward. So I don't think there was anything else he could have done. But we had like a reasonably good game. And he was super nice. He talked about how tight I played, and we were talking about the matchup and card choices and stuff, and it was awesome. But I think after turn 4 or 5, I kind of just ran away with the game. I got all the tempo, and I drew all my power cards after he did. So
Yeah, I played Lex Mirror obviously a few times. It's even when it was ice, it wasn't great, but it seems to be the most toxic mirror match besides a Prism or Odin mirror match that I've ever played, and I am really glad I don't have to sit through that.
yeah, I actually don't think that's true. I mean, it feels bad when your opponent like is seeing their Rain Razors or 3 of a kinds or whatever, but most games aren't like that. Most games are pretty back and forth, and pretty mid rangey. Both players will block with a card or 2 every turn. I think the Lexi mirror, if people are playing like a fuseless build at least, which I think is the best build, if people are playing something like this in a mirror match, I think it's super skill intensive.
Maybe it's because I have no skill. Maybe that's the reason.
I mean, if you mess up, you'll die. So,
True.
so it can feel pretty bad if you make a mistake, even if you can't recognize that you make a mistake. If your opponent can see it and exploit it, if they're even a little better than you at Lexi and they've played the mirror a little more, Um, the mirror match can be really punishing. It's just it's very mirror match is very hard. Sometimes you get high rolled by early rain razors and three oaks and stuff, but most of the time I think that you have to play super tight or you get edged out, which I think is awesome. So LEXI mirror is not that bad, but yeah, that matchup I saw more power cards than he did. After he saw two three of a kinds, I just drew all mine in a row and rain razors and stuff, and yeah, it was pretty bad.
All right, so our board Nathaniel Snyder is now 2-0, heading into round three. Round three, sir. Fight.
All right, so round three, I look at my pairings and I'm like, oh no, come on, not again. And I sit down against Pro Tour champion Michael Fang.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who's listening to a random Flesh and Blood podcast probably know who Michael Fang is. He's Pro Tour 3 champion, right? Won Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
played at Oldham. Man can play everything. He's so good. It's the second time I got to play him. He beat me in a 10K last October. I was playing the really bad Ice Death Dealer Lexi deck that you were playing
Watch
on
your
Saturday.
mouth. Watch your
And
mouth.
I was playing against him on camera on that one, but he beat me. So I sat down and he was playing Briar, and I think I played super tight. I'm really proud of how I played that match because he's much better than me. And even though that's a good matchup, they can. It's not a that good of a matchup by that much when I'm not playing as much disruption as you would want to be to like lock them out. But he played super tight. I think I played pretty tight, and I ended up getting there in the end.
Now, this is a question I ask a lot of people, and I get very, very different answers every time. So, when you face somebody with the prestige of Michael Fang, someone that's obviously recently won the Pro Tour, won numerous Battle Hardens, top numerous Battle Hardens, do you feel the pressure of just sitting down against that opponent versus other people? Does it feel like you're playing against Michael Fang, or does it feel like you're playing against anyone else playing that deck?
Well, Michael Fang is like the nicest person in the world. Like, even though like a battle hardened, like this happened the first time. Like, we're playing on camera. I missed a tunic. I missed two tunic counters in a row. I think in last October, and he kept trying to give me the tunic counters. Like, no, you can put your counter on tunic. I'm like, no, it's okay, man. I don't deserve it. So he's like the nicest person in the world. So it would be really hard to be intimidated because of how nice he is. Uh, but yeah, I'm cognizant of like how much better at the game he is than me, and all of his accolades and stuff because I pay attention to the tournaments. But I play much better when I sit down, and I think my opponent's better than me. I think that's like one of the reasons I played so tight in our game because when I think my opponent is better than me at the game, I really tune in and like focus. Um, so I don't really get intimidated. I think it makes me play better. I have way more fun.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Anytime I face Patrick Stampert or Dakota Hawks, I really feel that pressure of that very high skilled opponent. I'm looking at the camera in a very cheeky way for people on the podcast. Obviously, you can't see it, but just know that I'm being very cheeky when I say that,
Uh,
laughing out loud. But
I, I think Dakota's pretty good.
all right, bro. All right. Hey,
I don't know.
just
I like Dakota.
all right, all right. This has turned into a fanboy podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Nathaniel Snyder, Dakota Hawks' biggest fan. I'm only saying because he's in chat, but all right. So we're 3-0. We just beat Michael Eugene Fang. Round four. What we got?
Round four, I sit down against Noah Biros. I think is how you say his last name. Biros.
Yes, yes.
Uh, so I sit down against Noah, and Noah is on Briar, I believe. Yeah. Noah's on Briar too. So Michael Fing was on Briar. Noah's on Briar. We sit down and play, and this game is this game's not very close. I think I win the die roll, make him go first. I eat like 7 damage or something. I load um like a Bolton shot plus some other red arrow, and I'm holding a rain razors, and then I draw a 3 of a kind on my turn 1.
Oh,
I just like rain razors 3 of a kind, and then I attack him 5 times to get his whole hand, get all of his armor, and put him to 20, and then kill him in like 2 turns. It was not close. I drew all the busted cards, and I think he attacked me on turn 0, and like maybe threw a snatch at me on turn 4 or something. I'm pretty sure this was that game. I don't think this one was particularly close. I just like didn't disrupt him at all. I just killed him way too fast.
so we're saying it's a skill issue.
Yeah, I outskilled my opponent by drawing all of the busted cards.
True, that one. True.
He was very nice though. I mean, we only sat down for like 10 minutes, but he was really nice.
Hell yeah. So we're currently 4-0. I don't remember. There was like what 7 rounds.
Yeah, 7 rounds. We had exactly 100 people.
So I believe winning your next round 5-2 most likely locks you in. I know.
One X2 will make it for sure, and if you go 5-0 and you lose your last 2, unless that happens to someone else, which is not super likely. At that point, there were only 3 undefeateds going into the 6th or going into the going into the 5th round. There were only 3 undefeateds. So if I think if I lost the next 2, it wouldn't matter. I'm pretty sure I would make top 8 anyway. Because if there was no undefeated at the end of Swiss, then 2 X2s would make top 8, and I would just have the best record. So it didn't really matter if I won the next 2.
Does
I guess the last 2. I have to win the next 1 to lock it, but I have to win round 5 to lock it for sure. But if you lose the last 2, then it doesn't matter. So the next round is a win, and yeah.
So another question I ask a lot of people, and I get a lot of different answers. Once you know you're locked in for top 8, does that change the way you play? Do you like breathe a sigh of relief, but like I can just play? I don't have to have this weight on my shoulders. Do you maybe turn up because you want to make sure like I want to be first seed? Do you just strategically play because you know this person's this record? Do you want to get intentional seeding? So like how do you go about knowing that you're most likely locked for top 8? Does that alter anything for you?
So in most of my card game experience is playing Magic the Gathering since I was like 12, right? 14 or 15 years, like a long time. And in that game, yeah, because once you like XO and there's only 2 rounds left at one of these things, you can just double draw and it doesn't matter. Or if you play for seed, it doesn't matter if you lose because you make top 8, whatever. In Flesh and Blood, you can't do that because draws are worth 0 points. And playing for seed's like pretty important. On LEXI, she wants to go second in most matchups. It doesn't make the biggest difference in the world, but it makes enough of a difference that you want to go second. I don't know. In Flesh and Blood, you just have to play every round because your opponent's probably going to want to play if you're undefeated and you get paired down, unless you scoop to them, which people don't do too much. But no, once you lock up top 8, I don't think it matters for me personally in Flesh and Blood. Just the way that the pairing system and tiebreaker system works. I don't really think about records or who makes top 8 at what or what my breakers are or anything. It's just, I mean, you can't draw for an advantage, so you kind of have to play every round. So you just play 1 round at a time, and just whatever happens in the end happens. I don't even know what my record is halfway through the tournament. You just play 1 round at a time.
True that one. So we're going to round 5. This is your most likely win in. So you face 2 back-to-back Briars. Did we get the 3 of a kind of Briars in round 5?
Yeah, so I sat down against Holden Isaacs.
The GOAT.
This guy's very good. We don't know each other super personally, but we've seen each other at a ton of events. He's beat me a couple times. Super nice, but he was always on Oldham. I've only ever seen him play Oldham. So I expected him to be playing Bravo, because Guardian or whatever. But I sat down and he was actually on Briar. So I got 3 Briars in a row, and I told him after a game, I think he's better than me at the game, so I had to play super tight. Because Briar can be a close matchup, even though I think Lexi's pretty favored. They can, like, channel out heroics and messed up cards, so they can still just get you. So we play, and our game is not. Our game is a lot closer than the one in the previous round. But I think I played the game super tight, and hamstring shot messed messed him up that game. It was there were a lot of turns where he passed with multiple cards in hand, not being able to play the game. Due to like letting a hamstring shot hit plus like an Arctic or like a Bolton shot hit, reloading an Arctic, flipping it, and then playing it, giving 4 frostbites or whatever. Just the disruption, um, plus the power cards were just too much, and our game was a lot closer than the last one in the first half. But then once I got tempo, it was brutal. I think there was a turn um, where he like played Channel Mount Heroic and then attacked me once. I blocked 6 of it, took 1, and then he passed, put a card in Arsenal, and then didn't get to attack me on the next turn with Channel Mount Heroic. I think I played like a Winner's Bite, 3 of a kind or something, and he was 15 or 16 life, so he had to block with a whole bunch to be able to play the game, and he didn't get to use Channel Mount Heroic on the turn, so I got there in that one too. It was a lot closer than the previous one against Noah, but I think I won with 15 or 16 life or something.
Gross. I will say, Mr. Holden Isaacs is the only person in history, and I give him infinite credit for this. He is the only Odom to ever beat me when I was on Control Dash. Now, obviously, I massively threw, but we won't talk about that. But the fact that the game was even close, the games usually are blowouts. Like, I usually, like, them up. He played probably the best I've ever seen in that matchup. Ever.
Yeah, he's really good. I don't think he made any real mistakes in the game that we played at the Battle Hardened. I just like matchup's kind of hard for him, and I knew the plan and drew well enough that it didn't matter. I don't know. He's super good. I love playing against him. I think he's better than me. So when I sit down against someone who I think is better than me, I don't know. I really hone in and focus.
Oh, that's why you always beat me, because you think I'm better than you. Now it all makes sense.
I think we've
Nah.
only ever played once.
Yeah, and I won that one, right? Right?
Uh,
Uh,
we both received a cold foil Azalea.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
I
we
have
both
a,
won.
yes, I have a cold full Azalea and a
Yeah,
playmat for
yeah,
reasons.
yeah. We both won that one.
but so we're 5-0. We are hot right now. Pause. We are hot right now. We go into our 6th round. We're probably locked in. We're feeling good. Sit down for 6th round. Talk to me.
Yeah, so we're 5-0. Just and there's only yeah. So I think here there are only 3 undefeateds, and it's the undefeateds are me, and then in the table next to me, the undefeated is Yuan Ji Lee, also the GOAT. That means very good at card games.
True.
Playing against Mara Ferris, who's also very, very good. She is X1. And then the third undefeated is my opponent, the one and only, the drip drop Sam Dando. Uh, and Sam has a special place in my heart because the day I learned how to play at Calling Indy last year in April, I was at a Magic tournament. It was a team tournament. I was doing pretty well, but we scrubbed out. It was a team tournament. It happens, whatever. And then Jordan Kennedy taught me how to play Flesh and Blood on Sunday, and or taught me how to play a little bit on Saturday. And I was walking around. I bought a few boxes and was looking for some cards, and uh, like the game, you build your decks like you build commander decks in Magic, where you build it around a hero card. And I was looking for chain cards because I wanted to play chain because he looked like Dredge or whatever, and I couldn't find any chain cards. Like, you mean this game's played and you built your every single deck around your hero like a commander, but there's none of the 9 vendors here have any of the hero cards. Like, what's going on? And then I talked to some random dude at the min-max booth who's like next to me looking at cards. He's like, "Oh, you need a chain?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You mean the hero token?" I'm like, "Are they tokens?" He's like, "Yeah, they're completely worthless. That's why none of the vendors have any. Here, you can have mine." And opens his backpack and hands me a chain card. And then I talked to him about how he is in the top 8 of the calling. I'm like, oh, that's fucking awesome. What are you playing? He was playing Briar during Starvo meta, and I didn't know anything about it at the time, but I was like, yeah, Briar looks dope. I hope you win. And then he went on the top 4 of that calling, but it was very nice. So he's in the top 8 of the calling, or he's like about to be in the top 8 of the calling, and he gives me my first hero token. It's very nice. I have a Briar Warden of Thorns foil that I got him to sign at one of the events that I saw him at later. So I love Sam. He's
Yeah,
great.
I love that
So
dude, man.
yeah, so we sit down. We're both 5-0. He's locked. I'm locked. Doesn't really matter what happens, but um, I'm gonna play my best. I want to win because I respect Sam so much as a player. He's so good, and he's on a Zuri, and the matchups like can be pretty hard for Lexi if the Zuri player is really good. I think the matchups more even than most people think. Most people I talk to think that it's like 80% in Zuri's favor or something if they wanted to be, and I don't think that's true. I think it's way closer than that. But I think it's very hard to play. It's really skill intensive for the Lexi player. I don't think there's a ton of decisions, or there's not as many decisions for the Zuri player to make. Like their avenues of interaction or how they should play is a little more straightforward than how the Lexi should play. I think you have to play that matchup a lot differently than any other matchup in the game. But I do think the matchup's close, and we play a super close game. It goes like a half hour long or something. Um, there aren't that many people playing when we finish, and it's really close the entire time. I'm keeping the life totals like even. I'm playing around the Azuri activations. I'm using the power cards when I can leverage them. I'm trying to not give him too much value on his on hits if I can help it. We play super super tight game. He's playing out of his mind. I'm playing out of my mind. It's awesome. We're in a Dragon Ball Z fighting game. Like it's awesome. And there's a turn where um I have a tunic counter up, and I think I'm able to use it to take a third card out of his hand, and then he's all 3 of his frailty traps are gone. 2 command and conquers are gone, so he's got 1 command and conquer, and he swings a card out of arsenal, and I have 12 life, I think. I no blocks. My hand is 3 blues and a codex, I think, something like that. I think it's 3 blues and a yellow, but he hits me with a shakedown. And if it was Command and Conquer, it would have been a little more awkward. I think I had 2 cards in Arsenal that were pretty good, but my hand didn't block that well, and I can play through it Command and Conquer. And he only had 1 left, so but I don't think he hit me with a shakedown yet. So he hits me with the shakedown, tanks really hard. We're making jokes and laughing the whole time, because we're friends or whatever. And he names blue and takes one of my blue arrows. And then I think I cast a 3 of a kind out of Arsenal, and it's like a really good turn. I get most of his cards, and then I'm able to just like get most of his cards for the rest of the game, and then kill him on a Rain Razor's turn or something. So the game was like really close, and then one turn I like took a calculated risk, we'll call it, that he didn't have Command and Conquer, and he ended up just having Shakedown, and then I was able to take all of his cards for the rest of the game. But it also helps that he didn't play a single Codex of Frailty, and I played all 3 and got full value off of 2 of them. But the game was still incredibly close. And after round 6, I was the only undefeated player in the tournament because Yuanji lost to Mara. And Yuanji was on Briar. Mara's on Dromai, obviously. So she beat Yuanji, and then I beat Sam. So I was the only undefeated player left after 6 rounds.
And that's why you're the GOAT. But a little kind of side tangent. I have my own Sam Dando appreciation story. So Sam actually is the person that got me to be competitive in this game. Because I don't remember how exactly I got in when it comes to content creators. I don't remember who exactly I was watching. It was probably like Armada, and then probably like some random streams. But when I wanted to actually like get good at the game, I picked Briar, and obviously, I think that was the last big tournament at the time, and I just watched the video on the roundtable race from saying it like 20 times. I remember like literally the night before the Realm Games 10K, I literally went to sleep to that video, watched it on the way up, watched it all the way through right up to round one, just because like just listening to everything he was saying was just like it literally felt like art. And then I remember at the SCG LCQ, I think you were doing a Magic event that time. No, you played in the LCQ, but you dropped to play Blitz. I think it was that event. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah. It was like a Rodenatch or something, or LCQ for nationals, I think.
yeah, something like that. I go to this person in the mid max booth, and I'm just talking about Briar because I wanted to start playing the deck again. Because at the time I was on Bolton, and this guy was just like, yeah, I think Briar's pretty good. Just a lot of people don't play her, like the so on and so forth. And then we start talking about Icelander because obviously Levi was on Icelander, and then this person says a line, he's like, yeah, me and my friend Levi are about to make a channel soon. And like I can hear the voice, and it's like, yeah, this guy sounds like Sam. Because I've even talked to him on Discord a few times, but I didn't know that was who that was. So I was like, Levi, your friend Levi. Wait, I know Sam Dando's friends with Levi. He's like, Sam, yeah, that's me. And I look at him like I like do the eye squint thing. I'm like, excuse me? And then like it's like he takes off his mask, takes off the hoodie, so I can see his hair and his face. And I'm like, oh my gosh! And I'm not gonna lie, I had a little bit of a fanboy moment because it was like for me, he's kind of like a hero of mine, right? Because he's the one that got me like the game I fell in love with. He's the reason that I fell in love with the game, and just seeing him like just talking to me like I was just a regular old person, it was just like the most amazing feeling ever.
Yeah,
And
Sam is awesome.
like to this day, every time I see him, even when I'm like sad because I do bad, he's like, Isaac, what's up, man? How's your tournament going? And I'm like, yeah, I hate this game. He's like, nah, it's all good, man. You'll get him next time. And he's like such a positive influence on this community, and I'm just like really glad that we have him.
Yeah, me too.
So we're what 5-0 at this time. We're locked in there. We're going
Yeah, so we're 6-0
6-0.
after after we beat Sam.
Apologies.
So we're the only undefeated left in the tournament. Yuanji and Sam both lost. So it's just me at the top of the mountain. So after that, there's a bunch of my friends who are X1, like Mara's X1 and Pat Eshi's X1. Matt McInnes is X1, and I'm not like grinding the Pro Tour or playing for Elo. I really, because this is a rated event with a 6-point multiplier, I think. So you can get like 15 Elo per win, and my Elo was like, I don't know, I was ranked like 500 or something. It was not in the U.S. It was not that high. So you get a lot of Elo if I'm up here and I'm winning against these people, who are very good at the game. But I'm not really grinding Elo. It's like a cool stat, but I'm never gonna get the top 50 invite. I just don't play that many rated events to get that spot. So if I end up getting paired into a homie, then I'll scoop him in. I would rather put a friend in top 8 than try to take their 12 elo or whatever. So we get to the next round after like a half hour waiting or something. I think Sam and I played like a grindy game, but it only lasted about 35 minutes. And I think somebody went pretty deep into time, so it was about half hour before we started the next round. And I sit down, and my opponent's Pat Eshi, and Pat's not like a super close friend. We've talked a whole bunch. We've played a couple times. He's beaten me every time we've played. And anyone who knows Pat's super nice, but he's also like terrifyingly good at the game. He's so good. And he's on Levia, and I have no reps in the new Levia. Didn't do any testing, just threw his deck list together, whatever. We're playing the Battle Hardened. And I'm like, when were your losses? Because if his If his breakers are really good, then it doesn't matter. But if his breakers suck, then maybe I scoop him. And his losses were around 4 and 7, so his breakers are pretty good. But he's not locked. Like he maybe bubbles in. So if his losses were 5 and 7 or 6 and 7, 5 and 7, at least, um, or 5 and 6, I'm sorry, then no, yeah, if his loss was in round 5, then it would be 5 and 7 if I win. I would have scooped him in, or I would have played, and he would, if I beat him, he makes it in. But since his loss was round 4, he could bubble out, and I like Pat, and I don't know, he's good. So he's good people. So I told him I would concede to him, but I want to play the game for fun. And he was more than happy. Of course, he was going to play the game anyway. And we play, and the game's not that close. We play like, I think he puts me like 13 or 14, but I like take a bunch of damage on the last turn. I have a disgusting sequence with Codex face up, with 1 card in hand. I shoot him 2 arrows from hand, and then play a Codex from hand. He tanks like a long time to like, what's his last card? What could this Codex get? Looks through my graveyard. It's like a big turn. So I attack him twice. I play a Codex from hand on a Rain Razor's turn. Load the Bolt and Shot, shoot him for another 6, play Codex from Arsenal, and then shoot a Remorseless with either I had 1 floating or Tunic Up. So it was like a 4-arrow double Remorseless Rain Razor's turn. That was super messed up. It was like 30 damage or something.
Gross.
And the whole time he sat there with a Hold the Line in Arsenal, the new defense reaction.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't a 3 of a kind turn, so he couldn't really use it for the extra 3 points of value. Or an Art of War. But the Remorseless made it super awkward, so he couldn't actually block any of the on hits. He takes 2 Remorseless triggers, eats like 16 damage or something, and has a 2-card hand to throw back. Throws back like a Shadow Pete or something. Throws like 8 at me, but he takes 2 points to do it because of the Remorseless, and then he eats like 3 points of Blood that, or 2 points of Blood that. So, and I think I kill him like the next turn. But the game wasn't like super close, but so we did play the game. I asked him after if he, like, even though I had already conceded to him, if he played the game like at 100%. He said there was like 1 decision that he maybe would have thought more about on one of the turns that he was tanking, but he said that he doesn't think he had a better line anyway, so he probably just would have done the same thing. So he thinks he still played the game like the same. It didn't affect it that I had already conceded, because I think Pat's much better than me, like I said before. So I like really focus in and want to do well and play against people who are very good. And so it's, even though I conceded, it's important to me to like prove to myself that I can play at that level and that I can do that. So I just had to make sure that he was taking the game seriously, and he was. So that was good. So I 7-0'd the Swiss, but I scooped Pat in, so I only was actually 6-1 going in. But I was locked first seed, so it didn't matter if I won or lost.
That's great. Now, I don't know how well you remember, but obviously every time we see each other in an event, I got to get my digs in because, obviously I can't beat you, so, I got to get you with the word of mouth because I am the GOAT at Trash Talk. And I think for once, whenever you told me you're placing, it was actually genuinely hard for me to be like, yeah, you suck, or you're going to do this, or I was just like, so I was like, so what are you going to do when you're in the finals? And do you remember what you said to me?
I don't.
You looked at me and said, and this is something I truly respect.
Oh,
Even though,
did I say I'm just gonna take it 1 game at a time? I'm not there yet, something like that.
yeah, that was when you were locked first seed, hot on the tournament. We know how if someone's hot, usually they can go all the way. And I made that joke to you, and you're like, even though it was private, it's like you could have even said in private, it's like, yeah, dude, I'm gonna show all these people this is a free tournament. Even in private, you said, I'm gonna take this 1 game at a time. I have no reason to look forward. I'm just gonna play my best. And that is something I admire like, you thinking it in that kind of way, and I think that's one of the reasons that you did so well, especially like in the Swiss, because you didn't take each round one as like a, yep, should have won that one. This guy sucks, literally worse than Isaac. Cleaned him up. You're like, yep, I had to play really tight. I'm happy with how well I played. Maybe I could have even played a few turns better, but let's keep doing this thing. And like that's something I wish more players would. I wish more people would act like that, and I think they would get more success. But
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it's like really cool to think about winning the tournament when you are first team top 8, 7-0 in the Swiss, but like you gotta get there first. There's tons of people have exoed the Swiss of like a big tournament and then died in the quarterfinals. Like you still have to when you make top 8, that's when the like your Swiss is over. You accomplish your goal when you make top 8. But when you get to the top 8, you have more work to do. Top eight's basically another tournament. Like you can't take your foot off the gas. You gotta if you want to go all the way, you have to put in the work and get there. So
100%.
same reason like when you're playing the Swiss and people are trying to figure out what your record needs to be to make top 8 and all this stuff. It it doesn't matter because you can't draw into top 8 in Flesh and Blood in a meaningful way like you can in Magic or some other games where draws are worth points. Because draws are worth no points in this game. So you have to just win as many rounds as you can to give yourself the best seed. So you just play one game at a time, and it doesn't matter what record or breakers you need to make top 8 or whatever seed. Uh, unless you're like in the position I was in the very end where like I can lose and then still be first seed, so the game doesn't matter to me. Um, unless you're like, but so playing that game against Pat, the matchups. Well, I think the matchup's pretty good. Like I was playing Fuseless Lexi, he's playing New Levia, and they haven't had very much. They haven't had as much time as they would like probably to figure out the list or approach the matchup. And so I think the matchup was pretty good after we played our game. I feel like I could do that a couple more times in a row if we played a bunch. So I wanted to put my friend in the top 8 because that's what I would do no matter what. But also he's a really good matchup. So even if I didn't know him, I probably after we played our game and I crushed him, I would probably scoop to him even if I won. Like I'm about to kill him, I would just say, "Hey, this matchup's amazing for me. I want you in the top 8 so I can beat you in the top 8." And I would scoop to him anyway. Um, but unless you're in a situation like that, it doesn't matter what record you need to make top 8. It doesn't matter what happens until you get there. You in Flesh and Blood, you just have to play every game, and you have to just win. You have to win as many rounds as you can because that's what's going to set you up the best. And until you get to top 8, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the next. It doesn't matter what your opponent's going to be 2 rounds from now. It matters what your opponent is this round. You play to beat that person, and then do the same thing every round. Just take it one round at a time. And you do the same thing in top 8. There's no point in stressing about all the extra variables. You're going to sit down with a game to play, and then you're going to play it. And that's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys are listening to stuff like that. Like that is just literal gold at your fingertips. So we are now in top 8. So what are we feeling? Is this your first Battle Hardened top 8? I know you are the Bubble King. Is this your first?
It's only like the second Battle Hardened I've ever played in.
So sit down. So what are we feeling? Even before we actually sit down for our quarterfinal, how are you actually feeling? Like what is going on in your head right now?
Well, looking at the top 8, I think it's only good matchups. Like once I saw what the heroes were, what it was: 2 Briar, 1 Dromai, 1 Icelander, 1 Lexi, which is me, 1 Levia, and 1 Bravo. And I think every single one of those is like a very, very good matchup for Lexi. Like you can lose to any of them for sure. Well, okay, so I think the only matchup that's like pretty close, the matchups that the hardest is definitely Mara on Dromai. I think that matchup's really even. If you play super tight, but if they get ahead, you can fall behind and it can be really hard to come back. especially with Bullseye Bracers being, I think the matchup became a lot harder, which is why I was playing some of the card choices that I was. Like, I was playing 3 Art of War and 2 Premeditates. I think those cards fill the same role in matchups where you don't really want both of them. I don't think you really want both of them in your list for the most part, but I thought that maybe because the Bullseye Bracers ban, you would want more of those cards that extend your damage ceiling. So that's why I was playing the 2 Premeds along with the 3 Art of Wars. But so aside from Mara, which I think would be a pretty hard game for sure, very uphill battle. She's very good, and I don't have as much practice in the matchup as I would like. Other than that, and she's on the same side of the bracket as I am, but I would only see her in the semifinals if she wins her quarters against Pat. And I think Levia's a pretty close matchup with Dromai, so I think either of them could have won. But going into the top 8, I thought my matchups looked excellent. But it didn't really matter what the rest of my matchups looked like for the brackets, because I had to play my quarterfinals first. And regardless of what my thoughts are, I don't have any input or anything on the outcome of who I play against. I'm just gonna play against the 8 seed because that's who I have to play against. And so there's really no point in thinking about the bracket or matchups or anything. When I'm gonna play all these matchups in a row, I don't have time to really like do more testing against their list like you would for like a Pro Tour top 8 the day before or whatever. So I'm just taking one game at a time, sit down against my opponent. If I win, then I get to play again. So I'm feeling pretty good because like I think the deck list is very good, and I think Lexi's the best deck by a good amount still. Not like broken or anything, but I think she's the best. But I don't know. Looking at the top 8, I think my matchups are pretty good. So let's trying to win the quarterfinals.
All right, so round quarterfinals. Who we up against, and what's the matchup looking like?
So we have, so I'm first seed, so I get to go second every game if I want. I think the only time that would change is if I play against Pat on Levia. After talking to him in after our game in the previous round, that if I played against him again, I would make him go first, or I would make him go second, which is the opposite of what you want as Lexi most matchups. I think you want to go second with Lexi most of the time because you get to load free arrows. You like maybe leak a couple damage, but you get to start with 5 or 6 cards on your first turn, which is pretty nuts. But against Levia, if I were to play against him, a lot of her cards have an additional cost of banishing cards from their graveyard to play. So like half the time, maybe like 40% of the time, if you make them go first, they can't put any cards in the graveyard because they can't play any of them. Like they can attack you with the claw or something in an arsenal pass. So, but being first seed lets me choose that if I make it further into the top 8. So that's why it's important to be first seed because you get to choose if you want to go first or second. But so I sit down against Holden Isaacs again. We talk about him, sweetheart, super good at the game, very nice. But he's playing Briar, and in the Swiss in round 5, we had played like a reasonably close game that like got away from him at the end, and then this quarterfinals game was the least close game that I played the entire day. It was brutal. Like I make him go first. He tries to get some value on the first hand, but it's like really awkward. Like makes a rune chant, I think, and then passes priority. I arsenal an arrow. He attacks me. I block and arsenal another arrow or something, and then I think my first 4 turns of the game are either a 3 of a kind turn, or of a 3 of a kind and Rain Razor's turn, or a Rain Razor's plus Codex turn. Like every single turn's broken. I'm throwing 25 damage at him every single turn, plus whatever disruption. The game was not close. Like it was really brutal. We played for like 15 minutes or something. He didn't get to play the game. It was a hard matchup, and I just like drew the nut. I don't know.
The game went as Richard Garfield intended.
Yeah, it was. I felt bad, but like, you can't feel bad about doing that to somebody when you're playing one of these competitive events. I would like all the games to be like good and close. But when you get the beat the snot out of somebody like that in a top 8 of a battle hardened, like you're gonna do it. You can't give them any room. So you play your cards, play the cards you draw. So I did, and the game was not close.
Okay. Yeah.
But he was I don't know, he wasn't upset or anything. He was like that.
Your deck did exactly what it was designed to do. Can't be too
It was
upset about that one.
Yeah, it was the most messed up game that I played all day for sure. Like people complain about Lexi doing stuff like that, like it's a regular thing, but it doesn't happen that often where you just have those turns every turn until your opponent's dead. But the games that you do feel pretty messed up.
So we are into the semifinals now. Remind me, what is the difference between 5th through 8th and top 4 prizing? Do you remember?
Yeah, so quarterfinals, if you top 8, you make $125. If you make semifinals, you get $250.
Is that it?
Yeah. Well,
Gross.
and you everyone gets the like limited edition battle hardened playmat or whatever. There's a quiver of abyssal depths for this one.
Ah, very good.
Well, they're worth a couple $100. So, and there's only 8 of them right now. There will only ever be 40 of them. So like, they're gonna be expensive.
True. So we are now in our semifinals. We're doing it, but we get to face the Empress of Dragons, Mara. So is it your first time playing Mara? Is this your first time feeling the pressure of the GOAT, Mara?
Yeah, so I've never played against Mara before. Mostly I like walk up to her at events, and we've talked a whole bunch. I played with altered hero tokens. Like I have a custom Lexi that I commissioned Mara to do. It's like a black and white sketch Lexi. It's like one of a kind. It's very cool. Same thing with the frostbite. So I sit down against her and I make a joke about her, doing the art for my card. We have some back and forth. It's funny. We've got like 10 or 15 people around us ready to watch the game. And we're friends, so we're having a good time. But definitely feel the pressure a little bit more because the matchup can be really hard, and I have to play super tight. If I make any mistakes, then I die. And she will not give me any room. Right? She's very good, so I have to be on my A+ game, or I'm gonna get run over. So yeah, I was feeling the pressure a little bit.
Oh, how'd the game go?
So it was probably the best game I've ever played of Flesh and Blood in my life. And if anyone who knows me, I hate Illusionist more than I like Flesh and Blood.
I don't know about that one.
Like I think it's awful. There's no reason for the class to exist. Flesh and Blood is the best card game in the world, but Illusionist is just such a big mess that like, come on, man. I don't know. So I hate it. Anyway, we sit down and I make her go first. She makes some ash, whatever, throw some things, furnaces, I block, arsenal and arrow, and then go to my first turn. I throw some stuff at her, she blocks a whole bunch, and we go to her turn, and she's like, well, fuck it. And then she plays 2 Rake the Embers and makes 5 Ash Wings and arsenals 1 card. She attacks me with the Ashwing. I pop the first Ashwing, go to my turn. This was maybe turn 2, I guess. I think I popped something before. So she has 5 Ashwings. I pop 1. Go to my turn with 2 cards in arsenal, 3 card hand. I have a Bolt and Shot face up. I play an Art of War of my arsenal. Pitch a blue. Banish a Sleep Dart, I think. And then draw 2 cards. They're like not very good. It's whatever. I load Endless Arrow twice, giving it go again, kill 2 Ashwings on my Art of War turn, right? So this is like a 20 damage turn that I'm using on these Ashwings. But I go again on the same Endless Arrows twice, shoot the Ashwings. Then I shoot because I've used Voltaire twice, I shoot my Bolt and Shot, because it has +1, so it has go again and on hit reload. Kill the 4th Ashwing, load the Endless Arrows again, and then I get to shoot it again because the Bolt and Shot had go again. And I kill the last Ashwing, and then I arsenal the Endless Arrows. So I like pop 1 dragon and then kill all other 4. But I use like 20 damage turn on that. Like that's a whole Art of War plus like a big crazy sequence that I took, and a popper. Like, there's a lot of resources, but I was able to kill all the ash wings, which doesn't normally happen. If you have to draw my player place to rake the embers, you usually just die. It's really, really hard to answer because you don't have a weapon. But we somehow made it happen, and then we're playing a back and forth game. We're both taking a little bit of damage. It's really close. We both go to like 25 life or so. I'm keeping the board clear I'm floating the endless arrows, like shooting twice, killing the last thing with endless arrows. So I'm playing 1 card arsenals almost every turn, but I'm keeping the board clear and I'm pressuring and getting cards and equipment. And then I have a turn where I have a face up, or so I have a heat seeker. That hits. She has like 3 or 4 cards in hand. I go to my end step with a red Arctic Incarceration in hand. I flip blue Bolton Shot to the Heat Seeker, which is not the best, but whatever. And she has a whole bunch of cards in her hand. I'm anticipating blocking, so I put the red Arctic in Arsenal, and I draw my hand. So my Arsenal is face down red Arctic, face up blue Bolton Shot. In my hand is red Arctic and 3 copies of 3 of a kind.
Oh.
And I'm just like, what? So I'm looking. So this game's super close. I need every turn to go right or I'm just losing. And this match is worth a PTI and $250. So I need to win this, right? I want the PTI. And we're playing. She's got like 3 or 4 cards in her hand, and I have just garbage. My hand is 4 red cards, 3 of a kinds on Arctic, red Arctic and Arsenal, blue Bolton Shot. She plays Chromai and Yendarai, I think, and I eat it all. I take like 6 or 8 damage this turn. And I pitch a 3 of a kind to play a 3 of a kind. I draw like some blue arrows. It's like not that good. It's like getting worse. As I took 8 damage for this. It's getting worse. I blue Bolton Shot, attack Chromai. I Snapdragon Scalers it. Lexi flip up Arctic. Load an arrow, kill Yendarai. I think I got the counter off it before. Or maybe it was oh no, it was a Kyloria, I think. I kill a Kyloria with some other arrow. And then I use my action point to play the red Arctic, give her 4 frostbites. So I killed the whole board, gave her 2 frostbites. I use a floating resource to load an endless arrows, or maybe it wasn't an endless arrows. It was something. It might have been an endless arrow, but I load an arrow, and then I arsenal the other 3 of a kind, and pass, and I draw like a pretty good hand. She can't play the game through 4 frostbites because her deck has 3 blues in it. Like, I gotta see her deck list. I'm gonna bring all my ice cards because a Lexi flip is worth an entire card. That's busted. So she doesn't get to play the game through 4 frostbites. Just passes it right back. Or maybe she I think maybe she pitches 4 cards to like attack with an Ashwing or something. Whatever's left in play. It's not that good, but I like block with a card and then play like a busted 3 of a kind turn, and then we're back. We're like even again, even after drawing that 3 of a kind hand, a 3 of a kind hand. And I held on to the other red Arctic, and I got to use that next turn for another time walk. And then we're super even. She's out of equipment, and then I have not played a Rain Razors. I think I've played 2 Codex. So we draw, and my hand has a Rain Razors in it, and like some blue arrows is not that good. But I put Rain Razors in my arsenal with some arrow, and then shoot. I flip it face up, so the Rain Razors is like just face up. And I shoot a turn. I don't use the Rain Razors. I have another Rain Razors in my hand. I just can only shoot 2 arrows. I don't think it's good enough to use either Rain Razors. Or no, I think I use 1 Rain Razors, and try to get some cards. And there's a turn where she has Yendarai in play, and a card in hand, a card in arsenal. and I think it was after the first that three of a kind turn, the second one. So the card in Arsenal ends up being a breaking point that she can't use because I killed all the Ashwings. She can't get the chain link for it. It's like really hard without Rake the Embers without when I'm managing the dragons with the endless arrows. And so the card that we're playing in our arm slot, or that I was, is Hornet Sting. That's like pretty good in Draw My still because you can use it to kill an Ashwing during attacks, and then they lose their action point if you get the trigger off. So card's pretty good, but and I'm saving it. I still have it. But I use it on this turn. She attacks me with the Under Eye. I have um, endless arrows. Yeah, endless arrows face up in Arsenal, like a mediocre hand. And I want to use the Hornet Sting to get the counter off of the Yenderai and then kill it with a single attack instead of having to use two attacks on it. But I mess it up, and it's like the biggest misplay that I made the whole tournament for sure. She attacks with the Yenderai, I no blocks, take 3, and then I block the breaking point because I think you can use. I thought you could use Hornet Sting and just shoot an ally, but it has to be an attacking ally. I just didn't read the card more than once when it got released, I guess, before I put it in my deck. And she attacks me with the breaking point for like no value, just to arsenal a different card because she's never getting chain link 4. I block with the Hornet Sting. I try to shoot the Ender Eye. She reads the cards like, actually, it doesn't work like that. I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I'd shoot you for 1, I guess, because I flipped an arrow. And we play the next like 4 turns, 4 or 5 turns, and I'm not able to kill this Yenderai if I want to pressure her. So I just have to take 3. So she blocks with all of her cards every single turn because my turns are pretty good when I get to this half of the deck. And because I didn't take the counter off Yenderai, it would take too much pressure off my turns. I would take too much pressure off of her with what I'm trying to present on my turns to kill Yenderai. So I just eat a 0 card 3 every turn. I think I'd take 12 from this thing when it should have been dead like 5 turns ago. And I think I go to 3 before I win the game with a double Rain Razor's turn. Like I finally drew 2 Rain Razors and kill her. Um, but I almost lost because I Hornet Sting blocked the wrong thing instead of just blocking the Undereye to take the counter off of it. But it was a super close game. Every turn cycle, I like made the best out of all my hands. I played super tight, and everyone around me was like, "Oh, he's dead for sure." And then I like somehow live, and they're like, "Oh, he's dead now for sure." And then I somehow live again. It was the most incredible game I've ever played. Mara's such a master at that deck. I would love to play against her again in another tournament if the game is anything like that. Even if I lose, like even if I lost that game, it would have been the best game that I think of Flesh and Blood I think I've ever played. It was incredible.
Is Nathaniel Snyder fine with the illusionist now? Ooh,
Oh no.
headline.
No. The only good illusionist is a dead illusionist, but the game was really good. Like she was breaking like the core tenets of Flesh and Blood, right? Doing disgusting things. The cards shouldn't exist. Um, but my decisions were all really interesting. Even like like multiple brick hands in a row that like didn't really play the game, like made the best out of them. It was a good game. It was a really good game.
Now we're in the finals. Nathaniel Eugene Snyder, yes, that is your real name, from whatever part of Ohio you're from, is in the finals at Battle Hardened, Cincinnati. Kind of in your backyard. I mean, it's 2 hours away, but kind of in your backyard. What is the feeling once you realize I, the second best Kano player in Ohio, am in the finals?
Well, if you were my opponent in the finals, then I'd have a legendary gold foil. I think so.
All
That's
right, all right.
that's not what happened.
The
So
the bowling's crazy, by the way.
yeah, so we get to the finals, and Rhea won her semifinals match against Yuanji Lee, Icelander versus Briar, and she's one of my really good friends. We play. Well, we haven't like I don't think we've played before outside of an Icelander mirror in a it was like a brawl 1K in Chicago, the last one in Chicago. We were both in semifinals on Icelander, and her list was a little better than mine, so she ended up edging that one out and getting the invite. But we've been friends pretty much ever since then, and talk all the time on Discord. Talk about Icelander stuff. So I knew her list before the tournament, and I wanted to play Icelander, but I couldn't find the foil Warmongers. They wanted like $50 or $60 for them or whatever, and I just wasn't willing to pay that because the rest of the deck's foil, and I could get non foils pretty easily, but I didn't want to just slot 2 random non foils in my deck. Seems kind of sus. So we sit down, and I'm super happy that she's in the finals because that's my friend. Like I really wanted her to be in the finals because it's awesome, and I think the matchup's really, really good for LEXI. Like I've played Icelander most of the last like 3 or 4 months, ever since Baltimore. I just like only been playing Icelander, and the LEXI matchup is a nightmare. Like it doesn't matter what you do, what they do. They could play with their eyes closed, and most of the time they're just gonna kill you. Like deck's too efficient, even without bullseye bursters. Uh, so people were asking me why I didn't play Arcane Barrier. One, there, I just didn't expect Wizard to be played at all. So I think I made the correct choice for the tournament and not bring Arcane Barrier. There was 1 Icelander and 2 Kanos. Both of those matchups are extremely favorable, regardless of how much AB you have. Like you can get cheesed for sure by Kano, but I play a lot of Wizard, and the matchup's just very good for Lexi. So I feel like I can navigate those matchups and win 9 times out of 10 against each one of them with no AB. So bringing no AB is not a problem. Um, the the issue, so if anyone watches the game, I got like destroyed, right? And the games that Lexi will lose to Icelander look exactly like that. It has nothing to do with how much arcane barrier you have. Realistically, it doesn't matter. Their damage isn't efficient enough to race you, and you're not gonna play enough AB or be able to pay for it to prevent most of the on hits unless you're playing AB3. You can give a blue to prevent the like 0 cost cards, which are the ones that matter, but you just lose a ton if you play AB3. I think you could play AB3 in the matchup and all you're losing is boots, but I don't think you need it. I think you're just gonna win most of the time anyway. But we sit down and um, I so we were talking about Trench and the deck list. If I was playing Trench of Second Treasure, easily win this game. And it's not because the AB. I probably don't AB more than like 2 or 3 times in that game if I have AB1. The way that Icelander wins the matchup, and the reason they're playing a lot of these cards like Red Icespine or Red Encase and Warmongers, is because it makes your sequencing really hard and it stops you from flipping a card face up in Arsenal off of Encase, so you don't get to like play those your normal turns unless you use snaps. Um, but if you're encased, you can't use your snaps, so it really limits you to 1 attack on your turn unless you have a non-attack action in your arsenal that you can play. So if you have, there was a turn where I think I got in Warmongers and encased, and then another turn that was encased, and then another turn that was encased all in a row. And I didn't get to play the game. I think there was like a channel like Frigid and play for 3 turns. So I got to like I had to try to play through all of this, and I was drawing a bunch of red cards every turn. So I think one of the only arrows that I actually shot was like a premeditated blue searing strike that I had in my arsenal off a heat seeker or something. It was it was brutal. The games that you lose to Icelander as Lexi look exactly like that, but it really only is like 10 or 15% of the games that look like that. And if you're playing Trench, I think it's like 0% of the games. I don't think they can do that if you have Trench in your deck. Not for the AB, just for the activation. Like they encase you, and then if it clogs your arsenal and you won't be able to play through that turn, you just respond and float a resource off the card that you need cleared out of your arsenal, and then you use the resource to AB1 because you're not going to use it on anything else. And then all of a sudden you have a free arsenal slot. You get to play the game again. And then none of Icelander's interaction will matter outside of like channel like Frigid if you draw a bunch of all red hands or something. But I made a conscious decision not to play Arcane Barrier or Trench before the tournament because I didn't think those decks would be very represented, and they weren't. And I think my deck list was very good for the tournament. But Rhea ended up making it to the finals. Super good player. I'm super happy to see her win. Um, but I was happy to see her in the finals because it's my friend, but also the matchup's incredible. So I was feeling pretty good about it going in, and then I got destroyed. So, but That's how
Yeah,
it happens. Still got 500 bucks and a PTI, so can't be too upset about that one.
I'm pretty upset. You made my ride home very, very like sad.
Didn't you leave before the finals was over?
It was streamed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
good, good,
mean,
good, good stuff. Good job.
there was a judge call in the finals. It seemed like
Yeah,
there was a small
yeah.
delay.
So what
So
happened with that?
yeah, so the judge comes over. I'm like in the middle of my turn. I'm encased, and I have a my turn's rain razors face up, and codex of frailty face down. I'm encased, so I can't use my shit, and I'm like 2 or 3 game actions into the turn. Judge comes over like, "Hey, I need you guys to pause for a second. Coverage wanted me to stop you. They saw something." Like, okay. So Rhea and I sit there for like 4 minutes, and we're like, what could I have possibly messed up? We're like going through the turn, going through previous turns. Like, is there a life total discrepancy? Like, and we could not figure out what was wrong. I'm like, did I mess up? Did you mess up? Like, what's wrong? And neither of us had any clue. And she comes over, and so I started the turn. I rain razors I codex of frailty, put in an infecting shot, and then rain razors, and then use Voltaire to load an arrow and shoot it. And you can't do that because um codex of frailty puts the card in your arsenal face down, and I had put it face up because I was just we were just playing fast or whatever, and I didn't catch it. I just played for 11 hours or what. I think we had been this like the 11th hour of playing Flesh and Blood. Like can't see straight, so it's super embarrassing. I just put the card face up. She didn't catch it. I just like totally messed it up. So and I shouldn't have been able to load an arrow with Voltaire because I didn't have a face up arsenal slot. If I do this line, I have to just shoot the uh infecting shot. And there's like a back and forth, and I'm just like, whatever the fix is, like we'll do it if it's a rewind, if it's not a rewind, whatever. Rayo's like, yeah, whatever the judge wants, because like I didn't mean to do that, and Ray knows I didn't mean to do that. We were just playing, neither of us caught it. So the fix ended up being that we rewind to the point of codex resolving, um, which is before I played the Rain Razors. So I get to hold the Rain Razors in Arsenal, I guess, which is good. But all I get to do is throw the infecting shot for 5, and I don't get to snaps it because I'm encased, which is why I couldn't use Lexi to get free up the Arsenal slot. And then I think I died like 2 turns later, 2 or 3 turns later. It's like every single turn lined up to where her interaction stopped me from being able to play the game, and there was nothing I could do about it. So that those are the games that you'll lose to Icelander as Lexi. But if I just played Trench, none of that happens, and none of like that. The call doesn't happen. None of the encase matters. None of the interaction matters with Channel Lake Frigid. Um, and I'd be able to use. I think like I'd die with Rain Razors and my Arsenal face up and like all my equipment up, not able to use anything. So like her deck list was tuned to try to beat Ranger for the percentages that you can gain in the matchup, and it worked out for her. So I'm happy that she got it. It was real embarrassing for me to mess that up after playing so tight all day. I like to think that I'm pretty modest, regardless of what some locals might think in some areas. But like I think I'm good at the game, but I don't think I always play the best. I think I always have something to learn.
Bro,
But I am really proud of myself for how I played at that battle hard, and I think I played out of my mind. I don't think I really made more than 1 or 2 mistakes over 10 rounds of playing high level Flesh and Blood. But that was like all my games not being streamed all day, and then I get on camera and I do that. It's like really embarrassing.
well, to anyone that thinks that your play is embarrassed, how many finals have you gotten? Oh, zero. Okay, thanks for participating. All right, so
Yeah, yeah. It just sucks because like, man, I played out of my mind all day. So good. I'm so proud of how I played. I like really want to play more of these high level tournaments. Um, it's just like, and a lot of people don't know me. I don't really care what people think, but I know how people will see something like that happen, like a judge call happen on camera, like a player did something that was illegal, and then people think I'm like a cheater or something. When like I know that it was non intentional, and I didn't gain any advantage of it. It was like an honest mistake, and we rebounded. And my opponent, who's a good friend, didn't think I was trying to get one over on him, which is like the opinion that I care about the most. Like I would never try to cheat at all, let alone cheat a good friend in a finals for that much money. Um, but it's just embarrassing that like I play the best Flesh and Blood I've ever played all day, and then I get to the finals and I'm on camera and I play like a complete dog. So I have to just not do that next time.
Yeah, instead of cheating, just win. No, no,
Yeah,
no.
well, I, I was trying to win, but that has nothing to do with me
Yeah.
messing up the. I
So
just like I said, when I sit down against somebody who's better than me, I like really focus and tune in, like brains firing on all cylinders. And I don't know, like I played
it's
10 rounds
it's a long
of Flesh
tournament.
and Blood, and I think 6 or 7 of those rounds, I knew who my opponent was, and I thought they were better than me at the game. So I like really tuned in, and doing that for 11 hours is like really taxing. So I was just
Yes.
so exhausted. I was so exhausted, and I'm sure Ray was exhausted as well. And it wasn't. I just didn't play the cleanest game of Flesh and Blood in the finals, but I'm proud of how I played the rest of the day, and that won't change.
Well, thankfully, that mess up won't define your tournament. The fact that you absolutely shit stomped your way to the finals will be how I think the majority of us will remember your run. But that will be the recap portion. We'll end with a few questions from the audience and just some general meta discussion. For my question, so you said I know you've been playing a lot of Icelander recently. That's honestly what I expected you to be on. I did make the LEXI joke because I know it is just like the best deck, and it's like it's hard to like have a reason not to play the best deck. But what makes Icelander attractive for you outside of, you know, that ravishing hair?
I don't know, man. Icelander's just dope. You get to like play on both people's turns. You get to do arcane damage. You get to give your opponent frostbites. Uh, the coolest part about Icelander is that she's doing a lot of cool stuff, but she's not broken. And you have to play really tight in order to win some games. And I like playing decks that make you better at the game, but um, I don't like playing the best decks. So that's why I didn't really want to play Lexi going into the tournament. But it's definitely the deck that I'm the best at. So
Are you planning on playing Icelander for your next event?
it depends what it is. There's some people that want me to go to Chicago this weekend for the Battle Hardened, but I don't think I'm gonna go.
All right. Well,
Um,
in response, I just want you to go. So outnumbered.
yeah, but my wife wants me to take her to the fair, and she'll bad things will happen if I go to Chicago this weekend.
Well,
I
bad
just
thing. Go ahead.
I'm a little burnt out on traveling. I got a new job recently, and I had to spend 2 weeks in Chicago, like 2 weeks, and then a whole bunch of days in like Cleveland. I don't think I'm ready to drive 6 hours back to Chicago for a weekend.
Mm.
I'll let somebody else. I'll let somebody else on this one.
We'll let it slide this one time. I do want to comment, Rhea. I know you're listening to this. I want my credit for Red Raging Onslaught. No one played Red Raging Onslaught until I put it in Control Dash because I said that card's broken, and now I see it in every single mid-range deck. I want my credit. That card's broken. I have first edition foils, and I want my credit.
Yeah, I don't know
Hey,
where
watch.
it's
Hey,
gonna come
watch.
from, but
Watch what you say, bro.
she's been oh, I'm not taking anything away from you. You do love bad cards,
What?
and the card's serviceable. It's I don't know if it's yeah. There's no way that it's better than E Strike. I would rather play E Strike than play that because they're both red 3 blocks that attack for 7. But E Strike is like modular. You can do other stuff with it. Like you can E Strike into something like an arcane effect or whatever if you get the hold of grip.
Ah, you can
And you
also
can
you can
and
pop a card with these. Oh wait.
you can pump itself, right? So 7. So they're both 2 card 7s, except you have to hold a blue to play the other one. Or you
E-Strike's on a
can
popper. E-Strike's on a popper.
yeah. If that's the downside. If you want more equity in the Dromai matchup, then you have to fit more poppers somewhere else. Although I don't think that playing 6 poppers as opposed to 3 poppers makes a big enough difference to like. I don't know. The cards are really comparable, but you can play E-Strike off 2 reds, and that helps like filter your brick hands because the hands that suck with Iceland are the ones where you draw multiple reds. It can be really hard to use. Um, but I do like both of those better than Wounded Bull.
True.
But yeah, the reason to play, I don't even know what is this card called. I can't even remember it.
Bruh, the slander is actually insane.
No,
Raging
I, I,
Onslaught.
yeah, Raging. I bought foils. I just couldn't remember the name of it. So the reason to play that card over Wounded Bull is because you lose a point of value on the offense, but you gain a point of value on defense, which is pretty valuable. So it's like comparable there, except um, Wounded Bull is only worth playing if you're playing it when you have less life than your opponent. If you're ever blocking with the card, you're losing the game. It's like embarrassing card. The red 2 block that costs 3 is awful. um, but this version of Icelander that's playing a lot of arcane effects, the cool thing about it is it takes a lot of pressure off you trying to manage both players' life totals in such a way that you turn on your fighting spirits and wounded bulls and whatever like Heart of Fiendal, whatever effects you're playing, like the Michael Hamilton version of the deck. You don't have to try to posture the life totals to where you're 1 or 2 points below them at all times to get the most value out of your cards. Uh, if you're playing Raging Onslaught and such, because you just don't have those effects, your cards will get their value every time. And the arcane version of the deck, a lot of times the best way to play the game is throw these arcane effects that have cards that take tempo from your opponent. And sometimes when you're doing that, actually a lot of times you'll find yourself like multiple, like 5 to 10 points of life ahead of your opponent, just because of the disruption that you're presenting. Especially if you're on the Weather Vane version and your deck is like functioning, which I think that version of the deck's awful. I think that deck is really good without Weather Vanes and like a couple attacks. Like Ray is definitely playing the best version of Icelander right now. It's like the arcane version with all the disruption, but you're not playing a bunch of 1 cost 2 blocks in your deck. 1 cost red 2 blocks. So
True. True.
you, with this version of the deck, you often find yourself ahead of your opponent with like reasonable more life than them. So cards like Wounded Bull and even Fandle's Fighting Spirit to a degree get pretty worse when you have more life than them. So Raging Onslaught is better than Wounded Bull, I think. I'm just not sold that Raging Onslaught is 100% better than E-Strike, except for the fact that it's a popper, which I'm not sure how much different that makes in the Dromai matchup because those aren't really what win you the game into Dromai. They're valuable tools, but I'm not sure if the scours in the sideboard in her sideboard would be better used as the additional poppers, like playing Command and Conquers or something, and then turning those Raging Onslaughts into E-Strikes in the main board.
I assume the scours were for Vincent, because I know
Yeah,
there was a lot of people wanting to play Vincent.
yeah, that's for Vincent and Prism, and it's just like you had this, you have the slot. She had the slots in the deck, so I'm pretty sure she just wanted to hedge because the Prism matchup's probably pretty hard as Icelander. And having them wouldn't hurt. And it's a blue 3 block for the matchups where you want another blue 3 block, like if you want to play against Brava or something, you just block with it or pitch it, whatever. So the card is not awful. Um, but I think there's some slots that you could turn the Raging Onslaughts into E-Strikes and then play different poppers in the sideboard if you want more poppers for that matchup. I'm just not sold that Raging Onslaught's better than E-Strike in every other matchup that's not Dromai. If you're playing them into every matchup except for LEXI or the Codex of Frailty decks, I guess, Um, I'm, I'm just not sold that the slot's better than E-Strike if you have room elsewhere for the other poppers, which I think you do.
Just know that you're hurting my feelings. That's all. I don't know how much you care, but my feelings
Yeah,
are being hurt.
but also I I didn't play Icelander and I didn't win the tournament, so who am I to say? It was funny when we were in the top 8 and when we got in the finals because I wanted to play Icelander for the tournament and I was asking her about her deck list or some card choices before the tournament, but she's like keeps it pretty close to the chest, and we're good friends and we talk all the time on Discord. Um, and I know after the tournament, if I want the deck list or thoughts or card choices or anything, she'll just give it to me, talk to me about it for hours. But if I if I ask for a deck list or card choices or thoughts or any of that before a tournament, I'm really not going to get that much out of her because she's on a team. So I didn't have like a solid deck list really, um, or like an up to date deck list. I had her recent deck list, but it wasn't quite what she played. I didn't have her thoughts on sideboarding into some of these new decks with some of these new cards. So that was one of the reasons I didn't play Icelander. I just didn't have time to really do any testing, so I just played the deck that I knew how to play. Um, but I am gonna play some Icelander going forward for sure. If I were to go to Chicago this weekend, I would probably play LEXI. I think she's still the best deck, and I think I play it super well. And I don't know, I like winning, so I'll probably do some more of that. But
I don't know, mid at
I would pick the
best.
go.
Mid at
But for
best.
local events, yeah, I don't play Lexi at like armories and stuff. I'm really big on like like I don't have a team. I don't do any testing for these tournaments really. I'll play like 5 games on Talishar or something. I spend most of my time doing Flesh and Blood stuff, like putting together commoner decks out of bulk that I buy to give to new people to try to teach them how to play the game, or trying to organize armory events. Or I built a deck for every class. I have almost all the heroes in the game built. I think I'm missing a couple cards for a couple of them, but I can lend out like 8 to 10 decks at any time, like unique classes, all legendaries and everything. So I can like get an armory to fire with just the decks that I own, so I can get people to play the game, so they don't have to invest like $400 to play. Um, so
What a
I,
guy.
I I'll
What a
just
guy.
play. So I don't play Lexi or Kano, which are my two favorite heroes, at armories because I don't like Lexi's busted. I'll lend it to somebody who's new because they're not gonna like exploit the broken cards. Like somebody like I would who knows how to play the deck. It just I don't want to run people over armories, so I'll play like OTK Viserai or some
Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah.
Like
Let's go.
fatigue. I'm gonna play Fatigue Doranthia on Wednesday. It's gonna be awesome.
Dude, so am I. Let's go.
So
Let's go.
yeah, I do that type of stuff locally. That's why I don't really get to test very much because there's some good players around me, but I don't have access to a team or anyone who really wants to like grind and test games like on that level that has the same schedule as I do. So I spend most of my time just trying to build a community and get armories to fire and all that. So, but if I went to Chicago, I'd probably play Lexi.
All right. Well, we have a few questions, but guys, I don't have Nate for a little bit longer. I don't have too much more time with him. But if you have like a really question that you need to just put in there for anyone that sees in there, obviously, if you guys are watching the VOD, I'll obviously always send him questions and I'll comment down below what he says. But you kind of already half answered it. But question is, when building a local scene, what is the most important thing?
Um, I mean, obviously, just like it's important to focus on teaching instead of like if you're going to the armories to try to spike and win cold foils, like that's awesome, like go for it. But that's not gonna help people get into the game. Like people can do that, but like somebody like me who wants to like grind tournaments and try to play pro tours and stuff, like armories aren't worth that much because the testing isn't that good because people aren't very good when they're first learning how to play a game because Flesh and Blood is such a low variance game. Um, the way I got everyone to play the game in the first place, like our entire group, I have a big Discord for like my personal Discord with like we got like 80 or 100 people in there or something. Most of them are in Columbus or in your area down by Chillicothe, or we got some Cincinnati people in there too. But it's mostly local Ohio people. But I taught like a good portion of the people in my server how to play the game in the first place, and I did that by just having the decks on me to teach them how to play. Taught a lot of Magic players how to play. Like I said, I have like one of these Omni hives with a bunch of like 10 or 12 deck boxes in it at any time, and I can put together like 8 to 10 fully powered CC decks at any time with sideboard guys in the deck to lend to people, so they can play the game without having to put in some huge investment. So it's like really hard to get people to sit down and play the first game, but once they do, they're hooked. But then it's hard to convince them like, hey, you need to buy $400 in like tunics and command conquerors or whatever to be able to play these armories where you're winning store credit or whatever. So having cards for people to borrow is a big way to help, but mostly just like being nice and patient and respectful with new people. because this game's hard. So when they first learn how to play, when you're playing against them, like let them, let them take their time. Like don't play Kane, don't fucking play Kano, and
Ah,
blast people into the sun because then they're not
yeah,
gonna like the game. People
lame.
will think people will think that's some people will think that's sweet when they're new, and they won't mind. But when a lot of people when they sit down and play a game, if they're losing every game, not close, and they're not having fun, they're not gonna come back. But if you can keep people around for a couple weeks, then they're probably set for life. The game's really good. Once people see that, then you can start playing other stuff. Like once we'd stopped getting as many new players in to our local shops, then I started playing more Lexi and more Wizard at our local events because that's what I enjoy playing. I want to play that stuff all the time, but I just can't. I don't want to do that to people who are new because I think some of the same thing with Illusionist. I don't think Illusionist belongs to Armories because like the games are so lopsided half the time. Unless the player's like new, then I'll hand them Dromai, whatever. I've got a deck built. But like someone who's experienced, like I'm not gonna play that stuff. Cause I'm not there to win store credit or farm like armored cold foils. I want people to play the game so that I can have people to play the game with.
Yeah, so I remember the first time, not that I met you, but it was I don't know if you remember, it was a random like 1K that we went to at Magic at my local store. I remember you were on Belcher, and this is why I think we connected initially, even though we didn't really get to know each other. But like, I was a Belcher player, didn't play the deck that much, but I loved Belcher. I remember you like Belchered someone on like I forget it was like turn 2 or turn 3, and like you just said Gore Belcher for game. I yelled all the way from the back of the shop, Give him Belchered! It was like
Yeah,
the
that was
greatest thing ever.
at TGE, I think.
Yeah,
Or
it was a TG.
yeah, I played Belcher for a long time at the end of when I played Magic.
Yeah, and then my buddy Michael, you scrubbed out of the tournament. I didn't because I was the best Neoform player ever. I remember you were back there. You were actually teaching him Flesh and Blood, and I like vaguely heard about the game. I was like, it's really cute with like they got the professor and like all those people. But I remember you just sat down with Michael for like I want to say like an hour and a half, and you just like busted out games, and like it really was just like I seen from then how much you care about the community. We have our community Discord. I did count 83 members right now. That's obviously including us, but 80. You remember when it was just me, you, and your Columbus people? We had like
Yeah.
10, and now we're at 83 people, and the Discord's active. Like it's
Yeah.
actually amazing.
Yeah, it's like 40 times more active than the Ohio server.
True.
It's definitely popping in there. But yeah, I would go to these Magic 1Ks. So I created like the prize structure and the invitational structure for the Ohio Valley Invitational Series, like the Apex Gaming
Yeah.
esports store. They do Magic stuff. I love all those guys. Kyle, the guy that owns the place, is awesome. He wants to start running Flesh and Blood stuff soon.
Yeah, he wants to be in judge an event.
Yeah, you should tell him yes, so they can do a Rome qualifier.
Oh,
Um,
I'm gonna do
yeah,
that.
that, yeah. Anyway, their tournaments are awesome. They have a sick coverage area. It's like the best store in Ohio by a lot. For like to be at to play a tournament for a local tournament. Their area is sick. It's always streamed. It's great. Those people are awesome. But I would go to these Magic Invitationals. And I'm like, I'm not having a good time in Magic. I think the game competitively is pretty bad. It's like really high variance. The way that you play the game doesn't matter. But I love Magic, but competitive Magic is just like not very good right now. And it wasn't like a year and a half ago when I was teaching people how to play Flesh and Blood. Like Jordan Kennedy taught me how to play. I was hooked. I built a gauntlet. I built a low power and no legendaries like blitz gauntlet for every single hero in the game at the time, and I would just like go to these tournaments, play the Magic tournament, and I would top eight like most of them, but even the ones I did or didn't, I would find free time and like try to get people to play this other card game with me because I thought it was so fun, and then I got a good amount of people hooked on it and playing. I taught some people how to play who have been playing Magic for since before I was born, how to play Flesh and Blood. And my friend Adam Franzi, like he's been playing Magic literally since before I was born. Competitive player, extremely good, lots of like GP top eights and everything. Invitation SCG Invitational top eights, and he's sold out of Magic. He just doesn't play the game anymore. He like maybe owns a couple cards, but and he had like a really big collection. And that's happened a couple times where I teach people how to play this game. Like, yeah, this is way fucking better. Why am I playing Magic? And then they just, I don't know, they come play Flesh Blood with me. And I don't like teach people because I want them to stop playing Magic because whatever. But I want people to play because like game's awesome, and the people who really love card games would really love Flesh and Blood. So anyone who hasn't played Flesh and Blood, if you've played Magic before and you like really like good back and forth games where your decisions matter, you got to try this game because I don't know, it's so good. The only thing that sucks is like if you really love Magic, once you play Flesh and Blood, Magic's not the same.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it looks pretty ass right now. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
it's I don't want to like talk about Flesh and Blood to Magic players and then it sound like I'm just shitting on Magic because then they're not going to want to try the game. But the game is excellent. They should try it. But yeah, I spent like 8 to 10 months when I first learned how to play Flesh and Blood, not even like playing competitively with tournaments or anything. I was just trying to get other people to play the game with me. So I would travel all these Magic tournaments. I'd play the Magic tournaments, and I would just try to scam people into playing Flesh and Blood. Like,
It
and
worked. It works.
yeah, it worked. I got you into it.
We don't have anything in chat, but do we have one last question? Obviously, first of all, I do want to thank you for coming in. Hope you guys that are watching the VOD of this just enjoy this because this will be the start of his journey becoming the new GOAT. When he wins Worlds, make sure you guys come back to this video where I proclaim it.
Yeah, definitely not going to Worlds in Barcelona.
This
So
fucking guy.
I got a PTI from the thing from the Battle Hardened,
Mm-hmm.
and they're worth a lot of money right now. It's like pretty hard to not sell it, but
Don't.
also like it's a PTI and they're really hard to get. And I want to go to the Pro Tour, so I'll probably save it for Pro Tour 4 if PT4 is in the US, which I imagine it would be. It seems like they alternate US, non-US for Pro Tours and Worlds, so
Lame.
if PT4 is in the US, I'll go. Like I'm qualified for nationals, but I'm probably not going to go because I don't want to. It's like $1,000 to take the whole round trip, which for the whole weekend in Vegas, which is like not that expensive, all things considered. But I don't think I really want to go when I have no reps, no team, nobody to go with. Like I'll just stay home, I think.
That's fair. Our last question, and it's going to be a little bit of a banger, and we're going to let you go, is right now, you are now Brian Gottlieb, you are now James White, you are the sole controller of Flesh and Blood when it comes to making rules and new cards. So it's going to be one question for each. If you could design a card for any class, I don't care how broken it is, do make it slightly realistic. What would it be? And then the second one, if you could ban any one card in the game right now, what would it be? So you can. I know it's a little bit of a loaded question, but I'd like to have a little fun here. So if you can make one card, it can be a hero, it can be a weapon, equipment, a card, whatever you want, and then one card you get banned. What you got?
Um, okay, if it the banning a card is easy. If I could ban a card, um, if I could ban one card from the game, it would be Fandle Spring Tunic.
Brother in Christ.
100%, and I don't think that's unreasonable. Uh, the only issue with that is that most classes don't have a reasonable replacement for Tunic. Just anything that's playable at all. It's just a lot of classes have really cool chess pieces. Like Illusionist has a couple. Um, like a Ranger has Trench. There's a lot of really cool chess pieces. Like Redback Shroud is like a dope card. There's a lot of really cool, flavorful, thematic stuff that's like pretty good cards that you just can't justify putting into your deck because Tunic is so ubiquitous and so powerful. And I would love to see Tunic get banned in CC and Blitz and be like a Living Legend thing only, or like maybe a different format at some point. Um, but they definitely can't do that right now because, like, what do you? I don't know. there's just some classes that don't have a even semi reasonable chess piece to replace it with. That's like why Tunic is so expensive, because you can put it in every deck. Because you have to put it in most decks, or the decks are a lot worse. So I would love if like if Tunic was just a card that some people wanted to play, or some matchups you wanted to play it for, and it was like a good card, that'd be sweet. But it being like an auto include in 80% of the decks kind of sucks, because the card's better than the chess pieces that they have access to. Like it'd be dope if Assassin got to play Redback Shroud, but they just can't justify it because Tunic is so much better. And that's true for Rangers and probably most Guardians that aren't Bravo that we see. I doubt any other Guardian that we see doesn't play Tunic. Like even Vincent, like her best chess piece is just Tunic. Like you don't even play Carrion Husk for the builds that win any games. Like I don't know. The card's super powerful, and I think that cards that go in every single deck and you have to own one to play the game kind of sucks. So I would like to see that card go away at some point. Same thing with like Art of War and CNC and E-Strike. They just like can go in any deck and are super good. I would like to see those things like Living Legend format only at some point. That'll be a while, but I don't think anything needs banned right now, for sure. But if I could name one card, it's Tunic.
Understandable. And the hard question is making a card. And don't say Rainbow Wildfire, because that's not that. No, don't you say Rainbow Wildfire.
Mm-hmm. So I do have one answer for sure. So if I had infinite time on this, I would probably design a card for Kano. I don't know what it would be, but it would probably be something like Gaze the Ages, like a 0 cost 3 block blue, um, non-attack action, um, make an Eloquence token.
Bruh.
It doesn't have go again, so blue 3 block no, no go again. It's 0 cost. If you so yeah, make an Eloquence token. If you've played another wizard non-attack action this turn, I don't know, make a resource, something like that. Nothing crazy, but like that would seem pretty cool.
It's just Jover. We can't let this go on the design team. It would literally just be Jover.
Yeah, that's like the short answer. That the answer that I thought about before that I thought would be pretty cool. Not related to this, but you would like this one. So it's a mechanologist item.
Okay, I'm in there.
Okay. It costs 3.
Okay.
It's a red card.
Okay.
It doesn't block.
Okay, kind of lame, but okay.
It enters play with 2 steam counters on it.
All right.
At the beginning of your turn, remove a steam counter from it, or it dies.
Okay.
Normal. Whenever you boost an attack action, or whenever you banish a mechanologist card to pay the boost cost of an attack action you control, put a steam counter on it.
Okay.
And then it has it has an activated ability that's an action with go again. Remove 2 steam counters from it and deal 2 damage to any target.
Hey, get this guy on the design team. Get this guy on the design team. See, that would get me to play an aggro deck. Because you know how much I hate aggro decks. That sounds fresh as... I'm not going to lie. I like that.
Card's probably mean because like 3 cost red card that doesn't block, so you can't start the game with it in play with that. You have to boost 2 cards every turn if you want it to go up a counter, and you need to boost like 2 cards over 3 turns, or 2 cards over 4 turns in order to use it twice without it dying, I think. So you're not like getting it's like Dynavolt Tower from Magic. I don't know if you remember that card.
Yeah.
But like less good probably. It seems like that seems dope. You can like load Steam counters in this thing and then like use it to shoot people.
I mean, you remember, got plasma mainline. So, I mean,
Maybe it does arcane damage. It just like
oh,
shoots lightning at him or something.
oh shit.
I don't know, but that would be cool. So yeah. So 3 cost red, 0 block mechanologist item. Enters the arena with 2 steam counters on it. The start of your turn, remove a steam counter on it or from it, and then every time you banish a mechanologist card to boost an attack you control. You put a steam counter on it, and then you can remove 2 steam counters from it to do 2 damage as an action with Gogan.
No, I actually like that card. The reason I like that card is obviously because Dromai. Even as an illusionist stand, I hate Dromai because that hero. But like that,
it has to do 2 damage to any target for sure.
wait, which that clears up Ashwing, so I can send there. Also, the one issue that a lot of aggro dash has is if for some reason you just can't output enough damage each turn, you just get blocked. You just get infinitely blocked out. This gives you because a lot of times when you get blocked out, you're just a little short of killing someone. This could be that thing that puts you over the edge of actually killing someone.
Yeah, but it costs 2 full cards to do, and it's only worth 2 points if you use it the turn you play it. You have to spend You have to spend 4 cards to get 4 points of value out of it.
Yeah, it's fine.
If you don't do that the turn you play it, then you lose a counter every turn. So like every time you boost, just lets it survive 1 turn. It seems like it would be really hard to get more than 6 points of value out of it in a game. But it's probably one of those things where like if you play it on turn 1 and you're an aggro deck, you can probably get a lot of value out of it. But it's a 3 cost red, no block, so like.
I mean it has a similar clause to your weapon.
It's legendary.
Oh, never mind. See, you just ruined. How you just gonna ruin the card? How you just ruin the card like that, man?
Well, I don't want to bait people into playing more than one, because if you draw one after you have one in play, it's like impossible to keep alive for it.
This game sucks. Hate this game. But
Techno Vault or something.
Techno Vault. Everyone signing them up.
Techlo NFT Vault.
True.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thank you guys for watching this, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this just as much as I did. Like I said, just to peek behind the camera, I just enjoyed talking to my friend. Not gonna lie, and just getting to see the tournament from his perspective was absolutely amazing. Hopefully you guys learned a lot from a high-level player's perspective. And if you guys want to see more content from Snyder, hopefully I can drag him in all the way from his computer every now and then to hop on the channel. But if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you guys like, favorite, subscribe, comment down below what you guys want to see next. It's been your boy Siphon from Siphon TCG. I'm the better Kano. Peace.